Guys, yes, take a seat, will you? Do me a favor, while you guys are taking a seat, though, could you just go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tweet it out? That's a lot of instructions for you guys, right at the beginning of a show. I apologize in advance. We have a hell of a show for you guys, and, you know, I'm kind of excited about this panel tonight because as the stories kind of broke throughout the week, each individual that's on the show tonight was very vocal, did their own interpretation, their own opinions on Twitter, on YouTube, and I'm watching their shows, I'm listening to them on Twitter, and I'm really enjoying what they're saying, and they're speaking from the heart, you know? So I want to say this much, guys. Before we get into it, I want to thank everybody for being here. Please, again, do hit the like button. Let everybody know that we are live. It's Friday night in New York. We're doing this at 7 p.m. Eastern time, a little after, but nonetheless. And right above that description, you guys will see that join button. Guys, it means a lot to me if you could, please. I see a lot of you guys out there. Some of the old family members, please do consider joining the channel again. It would mean a lot. I do want to call these guys out one by one. And thank each and every one of you guys for everything you've done for me and for the channel as we've gone through the years. Guys, let me say shout out again to the great Sir X-Man, JudaZuk, WoolleyGamer, Frostbite Slash, Zombilla Ice Cream, Custods, who changed from Custods X to Custods. See, I paid attention to that. Shout out to Damion, MumbleRanting Gaming, Tyson Web 509, All Round Gamer, TrueWiddy, Kn1ght Ripper7, Big Chuck 777, Alphonso Carter, Punk Kiddish, The Great Brap, Jamie, Lady Foxfire, who's in the chat with us tonight, our Major Mooch Maniac, Sergeant Salty Nuts, Supreme Samurai, Donnell Brown, Smokes 901, Tactical Gamer, which, by the way, Tactical, thank you so much. He went from a Major Mooch Maniac to a VIP Mooch Maniac. Tactical, thank you if you're listening. That guy, Smitty, 4-star General, Brian B, a.k.a. Delirium Blades, and our VIPs. It's Chilean, Forkboy Gaming, Sean Slopka, the Wise Old Gamer, Wendigo Rex, Brian Carter, Marty Bison, MexJ88, Remarkable Knights, The Great Percolator 9000, and our honorable mentions, Humacast, where you been? JWE316, Rated D Demonic, Rich Kreiger, Twitter, Rich Kreiger 1. Rich, we miss you. Ice Queen Gaming, I know you're out there. Come back home. Rat the Emperor, Mr. Twister, Wilmy Hood, and the forever Mooch Maniac, Longshot 316. I see all you guys out there. Thank you again. Please tweet it out. Let everybody know. Let your friends know. Tell a family member. Let's get into this panel, guys. We've got a lot to talk about this evening, and I only have 2 hours to do it. Let me get into the one and only, the man who lets the pre-show go longer than the actual show, and you don't even want to know about the post-show. The great Basement Radio Arcade Podcast is back. Brap, how are you this evening, buddy?
Double kill. No, actually, I'm great. No, you're right. OBM and I had a pre-show going.
Yeah, I just had popcorn in my hand. Me and BG were like, you guys want to just go live and we'll just sit back. It's fine. It's fine.
Great to be here. Happy Friday, everyone. Smash that like button.
Appreciate that, Brap. Then I got my special guest here, guys. And in case everyone's wondering, Crap will be back next week. Crap is still a little bit under the weather, but he will be back next week. Xbot may be joining us later. It's his work Friday, and Forte may be on the way, in case you're wondering where the other usual suspects are this evening. That gets into our special guest here. And I'll start with the one and only. We've been trying to get this man on here for about 6 weeks. 6 weeks, guys. But after the pandemic let loose, and all of a sudden everything was open again, the man is out there like he's John Travolta in the late 70s. OBM, One Bad Mother's back on the show. OBM, welcome back, buddy. It's great to have you. How are you this evening?
Oh, I am super. And yeah, my vaccinations are definitely working.
Yes. Congratulations. Yeah, great.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you, keeping those invites open.
Always.
It's been, Fridays is always, a difficult day, especially, as a single dad, and then also, balancing a lot of other things. So I do appreciate the patience and, allowing me to come here and make sure that I, continue to fact check Brap and make sure that we keep him in line for the show. So yeah, you're welcome for that aspect. But yeah, thanks again, Mooch, and I'm looking forward to being in awe of your food analogies.
Yes.
And hopefully I'll remember what we're talking about as I'm listening to you do those. I always say trying to counter those as like the Dark Souls of analogies. But yeah, I look forward to another great show.
Well, I appreciate you bringing your gaming insight and your appetite, OBM. I appreciate that. But I've got my great friend here, another man that works round the clock. Very difficult to get on the show, but I truly appreciate it. And I hope that Nick knows this. We talk behind the scenes every once and again. Nick does outstanding work, and his work is done in print. And I'll tell you something, that's probably why I admire the man so much. Nick does an outstanding job. And Nick, go ahead and feel free to promote yourself, because I do believe, are you back over with the Lord's Gaming?
Yep.
Yes, you are. Because I know you started there, then you did something else for a moment. And I believe you're back. And if I'm wrong, I don't have your entire resume in front of me. But Nick, it is outstanding to have you back on here. And with the subjects we're going to be discussing tonight, you have your ear to the ground. So I'm really, really excited to hear what you have to say. And welcome back to the show, buddy. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Yeah, the good old 6-day-a-week work grind.
Oh, yeah.
Every week for every week because wildfires won't stop burning everything to the ground. So
That's very true.
it's crazy, but I'm glad to have a Friday to sit back, relax, and talk video games with you guys. And I appreciate you always inviting me on, even when my schedule most of the time doesn't line up with it. I appreciate the constant flow of invites. It's
Always, buddy. Well, you know what?
makes me
Listen,
smile on a Friday.
Nick, it must be something. It's either the Italian thing or the New York thing. I think BG will help me comment on this. But you know what we are? We're just awfully damn persistent, us New Yorkers. I don't know what the hell our problem is. But Nick, I appreciate you putting up with all those invites I send your way. But then I've got my buddy here, and this is a real treat, guys. I do want you guys to know the great Broken Games HDR. BG is with us tonight. BG, I said this before the show. I'll say it again live. You've done an outstanding job on the channel that you have, regardless. But this week, I just think this week's been on fire, man. And maybe it's just because it's everything that I've caught as far as news. I can't stop watching the channel. BG, welcome to the show tonight, buddy. And I'm very excited to get your take on this week's hottest topics. How are things?
Things are great. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Got a chance to touch on a lot of those things, and look forward to talking about it.
All right, well, we're going to get right into it, BG, and I'm going to go ahead and put you on the hot seat. First of all, I want to say, what's up to Crap Gamer? Shout out to Crap. We'll be back next week. Crap, I see you in the chat. And shout out to Replicant. Replicant, thank you for coming back to the Mooch family members, buddy. We missed you. Great to have you back, Replicant. Thank you. Let's get into this. And originally, until all this kind of went down yesterday, I had planned to start completely on another subject. But I want to get into the Horizon Forbidden West pre-orders that went live yesterday. BG, again, I'm coming to you first here, and there really isn't, when it comes down to the principles here, there's not a lot of debate. There's a lot of things we could say, if this didn't happen, then we can change the subject. A lot happened yesterday as far as the way that PlayStation and Sony presented their pre-orders through the standard edition, the deluxe edition, the super duper deluxe edition, and then the two collector's editions. But my point being is that now they're saying that if you have a PS4 and you want to play Horizon Forbidden West, you can. But if you don't buy I'll call it the deluxe edition. If you don't buy the deluxe edition, you're not entitled to their upgrade program, dual entitlement, I believe they're calling it. The problem is that they said months ago, and it's in writing, and it was said, verbatim, it's quoted, that you would get a free upgrade in this situation. I kind of want to just go ahead I don't want to put any kind of words in anybody's mouth on the panel here. BG, what was your take from inception yesterday when the pre-orders went live, and then you saw that it was going to be a $20 upgrade for PS4 to PS5 players? Not only is it a problem, but is it a bigger issue because Sony is seemingly going back on their word?
So first of all, from a PR standpoint, the fact that they use the term dual entitlement, I'm like, that doesn't sound good, right?
No, not at all.
That almost, I'm like, yeah, I could have definitely came up with a better term than entitlement. Y'all should have known people were going to spin that, because it sounds like you're calling gamers entitled.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
I could have told y'all not to use that word. The next, and as far as people pretty much having to pay the the deluxe edition, whether it's digital or physical, digital deluxe edition for it to get the upgrade, is like it comes out to the same price, right? But it's still a weird choice to do. Mm-hmm. Either way, they're like holding people into buying at a higher price, yes, pretty much, even though they might not want to at launch. And it's just weird. I mean, it's weird. It's confusing. For me, more than the price, because like I always tell people, like, if you don't like the price, just don't pre-order it, right?
Right.
So for me, sometimes what's worse than the price is it's how confusing it is. I remember I was in a Discord. It was like 5 of us. And we were reading, because, remember when Ghost of Tsushima had the whole upgrade situation, and there was like 6 different pre-order tiers or
Yes,
whatever, and
yes.
you had to figure out which pre-order tiers. And I lie to you not, 5 of us were in there like scientists trying to figure out which version you had to buy. And we ended up still not figuring it out because the wording was confusing, and it depended on it. You know, there was what tier you had to buy depended on if you already own the game, if you own the game, but already have the DLC. It was so confusing. So yeah, just on top of like, you know, like I said, the pricing is the pricing. I'm not necessarily for or against $70. To me, that just is what it is.
Right.
You know,
I'm with you.
Just like when, just like games were $60. If you didn't agree, you just wait for a price drop and buy it where it's at. But you know, the choice should still be there, and they're technically taking away a choice. And as far as so Sony loves taking I think advantage of loopholes, because they said that Horizon was going to have a free upgrade because it was a launch game, and technically since it was delayed and it's not a launch game, that seems to be why they're removing, you know, the whole free upgrade thing. And listen, I think Sony may overturn it. I think it is likely that they do change this.
Yes.
I think it's likely that we may get an announcement within next week. But I also think that Sony sees how much money they're making, and people are still buying their games. Like ever since going up to $70, it's not like their games are selling any less. So
no,
they're like, okay, well, people are they may see people crying, but the money hasn't changed. So for them, that's all they really care about. But I think they may change this decision in the coming week.
Now I'll throw this question out to the panel here, and guys, feel free to jump on this if you want. Do you think that possibly this also came about because with the recent change of the different components within the new PS5 SKU, Sony feels that they're going to be able to get more PS5s out there for this holiday? I understand that a new report also came out just recently saying that the chip shortage is still very, very much real and may impact well into 2022. That being said, I am seeing more and more people saying, oh, I finally got my PS5. I finally got a PS5 since these new SKUs are starting to become available. Not all happening in the United States. It's happening all over the world. They're slowly starting to release those out now. Is it possible that the thought process was that, you know, this is going to be more of a normal type of Christmas? They're going to get more PS5s out there, which is why they think that if you're going to buy the PS4, you buy the standard edition. But really, if you're going to go ahead and wait and get a PS5, that's why, and nobody really would want to get the $80 version. I mean, I to me, the whole thing is a bit of it's a cluster. It's an absolute debacle because it's a PR nightmare. It's an absolute PR nightmare because no matter how you try to slice it for Sony, the way that you could have only made sense is if the upgrade was a $10 upgrade like the others are charging us. This one's seemingly $20. I don't see where they're coming from with this extra. They're even charging an extra 10 on top of what they usually charge. I'm just confused on the entire thing. Nick or OBM, if you guys have any ideas, I thought maybe they said to themselves, well, you know what? We'll give everybody many options, but going into this holiday with our new SKU out there, we should have a lot more PS5s available for people come this holiday season, which is still 2 months before, if you think about it, or a month and a half before Horizon Forbidden West even launches. So are they trying to make that ramp to push people to go to PS5 because the units will be out there? Maybe that's the other deterrent. It's like, if you don't want to pay the extra $20, well, then just get the PS5 version when you get your PS5 this holiday. Again, I'm trying to make some logic of it. There really isn't a lot. If I was PR, I would absolutely be dumbfounded at this point.
Yeah, Mooch, real quick, and I do want to hear what Nick and OBM have to say.
Sure.
But regarding the $80 digital deluxe,
yeah,
it is interesting because you're right. They're charging like not 10, right?
Right,
20.
It's 20.
But they are giving some incentives if you go that route, like not just that you get both copies of the PS4, PS5 version. There's also some additional like perks that you're getting. I forget what they are. It could be like maybe downloadable skins or something. But there's some additional things that they're giving that you would maybe get like if you're buying a collector's edition. Maybe not the level of a collector's edition, but there's some incentives. So that might explain the $80, the $20 increase, because you're not just getting. Well,
Brap, we said this, and that's fine. I think it's great that we're trying to figure out what in the world they were thinking. But realistically, here we are. We do podcasts, right? Whether you do podcasts, you do shows, you do whatever it is you do on YouTube or on Twitter. My point being is that we know very well. I bet you if I put everybody on this panel right now at the Sony boardroom and somebody said, we're going to go ahead and do this and make an $80 version, I'm pretty sure everybody that's on this panel will go, that's not going to fly with everybody. That's not going to fly. And here we are. We're not in the industry. We're not in that business. We just keep our ear to the ground. I'm just very shocked that they think that the $10 upgrade, listen, I was the first one. I bought the DLC, Iki Island. I bought the Ghost of Tsushima DLC, and I'm definitely buying the upgrade to Death Stranding. I enjoyed it. I understand a lot of people didn't. I did like Death Stranding, and I want to have that definitive edition and whatever comes with it, the bells and whistles. But that's, again, it's a $10 upgrade. This is seemingly, it's just not, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't hold any water. And the fact of the matter that Sony came out and put this in print and said that you would get it for free, BG's right in his analogy and what his actual point was and why they may have sidestepped, because it was originally going to be a launch title. But the thing is, though, it's not a launch title, and you already put it in writing. At that point, you're kind of married to that, are you not?
Hey, Mooch, real quick, and again, I definitely want to hear what Nick and OBM have to say, but just to add some more additional context to the digital deluxe edition, which is if you're a PlayStation 4 owner, you want the PlayStation 5 version, you have to buy. This is what they are giving with the $80 version. You're getting full game PS4 and PS5.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting digital soundtrack. You're getting a digital art book. You're getting Horizon Zero Dawn Volume 1, the Sunhawk digital comic book. In-game items include photo mode unlock, special pose, and face paint. That's kind of interesting. And looks like you're getting some outfits. Looks like you're getting some outfits. So those are the additions that they're doing. I think so. You asked earlier, like, why would they do this? Like, who was?
I get that, Brad, but don't get me wrong. You answered the question. You definitely answered the question. The problem I have with that is that Sony's already fighting an uphill battle with the community. Keep in mind. And shout out to the Ash and Luca, who always reminds me of this on Twitter. She says, Mooch, you're always saying that, and that's the community that we're in. BG also reminded everybody at the beginning of the show that Sony went to the $70 price tag, and they're still breaking records with game sales, doing very well. Miles Morales still doing very well for the PS5, okay? I'm sure the same thing's going for other games that are coming out. Ratchet & Clank also selling over 1 million copies within a month. Point being is that the $70 tag hasn't affected things. The problem I have, Brap, is even with the stats and everything you're pointing out, that's not enough to really warrant anybody to want to put another, because what happens is you're just able to swallow that jagged pill that brought you to 70, and now they're seemingly saying, hey, listen, we're going to throw you a hat and a couple of songs you'll never listen to for an extra $10, right?
A comic book you might not even
it's like Mooch, right? Mooch serenades you for 2 hours. Well, $10, please.
It's like justifying the price of the Happy Meal because of the toy they're throwing it. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Look, I'm not disagreeing with you. Like, I agree with you and BG. Like, the issue for me is not the pricing model as much as the fact that they said, hey, wait a minute, this game's going to get a free upgrade. And I understand, like, the context of that was within the launch window of the PlayStation 5 and it didn't happen. But even then, the fact that they put that out there in good faith, they should honor that still. They should absolutely honor that. Like, I don't disagree with anyone on that. Like, Sony said, hey, free upgrade, do it. Like, just like absolutely do that. Like, don't sit there and then go back on what you said, because some people were expecting that.
I want to hear. I want to hear what Nick's got to say. And after Nick, I'm going to throw another curveball at the panel and just see what they think about this. But Nick, let me hear your initial thoughts on just everything that transpired after the news broke yesterday.
So there's two things. The first base thought, and Brap nailed it perfectly, is you said you were going to give it for free, so give it for free.
Right.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, sometimes, there's things that can be taken out of context. As I've written for sites for years. Sometimes people can take a quote and misconstrue that quote. The problem is they legitimately, in their words, said this is what's going to happen, and then they didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's on them. They have to deal with the backlash on that.
Absolutely.
My problem right now is I want to see consistency, and there isn't any. The games are amazing.
Right.
That is a consistent thing. But my problem is, a general rule of thumb, especially with how PlayStation's doing these, I have no problem with director's editions. I have no problem paying for upgrades. But the thing is as BG described, you shouldn't need to have to sit down and make a flow chart to figure out what version you need to buy. We need to simplify this process. It does not need to be this complicated.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. I don't like, even if you don't want to do like what Xbox is doing with smart delivery and you want to charge for your upgrades, have a flat baseline of how people know it's going to be. Every version now, every time PlayStation announced something in relation to one of their games, it's not the same. Like how Ghost of Tsushima's upgraded versus how Death Stranding's going to be upgraded versus how they're rolling out Horizon Forbidden West. There's no consistency of thought. It's a mess. It's bad for fans because you spend more time figuring out, going, I think I want this edition, than you do being excited for the game. I just want to pre-order my game, play my game, enjoy my game. I don't want to have to sit there and look at a graph, a chart, or whatever to go, okay, if I want this, I want this, I want this. That just does not appeal to me in any way. Make it clear, make it concise. Your average consumer isn't stupid, but don't try to treat it like they're going to sit down with their friends and go, okay, so I'm going to get the extra digital deluxe super edition because I want stickers in photo mode. Nobody is saying
so.
That.
Nick, do you think you agree with what BG had mentioned? Do you believe that within the next week, especially we're not going to get into the PlayStation showcase quite yet. That's another topic in a moment. But do you believe they will overturn this ultimately?
It's hard to say.
How could they not?
Because, well, the thing is, the reason why the thing is like, I'll use an example. When Xbox did the stupid Xbox Live Gold increase, everyone collectively in a group, there was very few people that were like, this is a great idea. Everyone went, hell no, we're not doing this. This is bad. They backpedaled it. The Horizon Forbidden West, while it's making waves in the general community sense, and there are people that are putting out pieces going, hey, this is kind of screwed up, the general consensus from all those people is still, yeah, this is screwed up, but I'm still going to buy it. So until PlayStation starts seeing it affect their baseline,
that's interesting, Nick.
They're not going to change.
I gotta say, Nick just brought up an outstanding point. And Nick, I'm glad you said it because I didn't want it to be just another. I was gonna say, have you guys noticed the tremendous amount of everyone's like, I'm really pissed off. By the way, look at this amazing $250 collector's edition I just picked up. Yeah.
Well, and that's the reason.
Right.
And that's the reason they got a show coming next week. I think they knew their timing of the releasing this information. I do think they miscalculated. So to kind of build on some of the things that Nick did say that I agree with, they obviously are struggling with some of their messaging. And like marketing 101, you want to keep your messaging very simple. The more convoluted it gets, and we saw this with Xbox in the past, like early on in the Xbox One generation, is when your messaging gets very convoluted, your customers lose trust. And that's like if you ever heard like Steve Jobs talk, like that's the number one thing. The customer, you want them to know what they're going to get, and that builds the trust, and that trust creates a loyalty. So like when I look at something like this, to me it just doesn't make sense from a higher level. Like it doesn't feel well thought out. It is a lot like the Xbox Live Gold thing, again, which Nick brought up, where it's almost like, somebody from an accounting or legal just kind of say, oh, hey, we could charge them double, make more money, without really thinking about the ramifications to the brand. One of the things that we do know, like if you've heard Sony execs, they know that the PlayStation brand is probably been one of the most successful, marketing and branding things we've seen, like with any company over the last 15 years, really since the early PS3. And we know that they absolutely want to protect that. We know that, that's why they value Metacritic, right? Like we know, like they've been on record to say they do. So they really are particular about protecting it. So that's why something like this, it feels like we know that they've been transitioning, like they changed leadership. They moved like their headquarters, stuff like that. And so part of this feels like, hey, there's a lot of dust up in the air. Somebody somewhere made a miscalculated decision. I think because of the backlash that I think there is enough, and I guess that's where I do disagree. I feel like it's uniform enough where I think they'll understand. I think some of the PR guys, the marketing guys at Sony are going to hear stuff like this. I would be very surprised, I guess I would say, if we don't see this overturned next week. I don't have any insight.
Well, let me tell you, a lot of what you said, OBM, does hold water. I mean, shout out to Mr. Johnson in the Super Chat. The Super Chat's working. He says, I already pre-ordered my Horizon $80 version. So, there's just an example right there of that. BG, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, what OBM said. Like, I was going to mention that too, that the timing of the show, announcement of the show, was not a coincidence, right?
Yes.
So Sony are like, nobody does it like them, where they know there's going to be some type of negative reaction to something. So they will time something positive exactly at that time, because
you're spot on.
Because on Twitter, like Gorilla, they were doing that whole countdown for the Horizon pre-order.
Yes.
So they knew when the pre-orders were going up and when people would find out about this, about the whole Horizon situation. And then PlayStation, of course, we're going to tweet out, we got this show coming, right? So now people are, once again, like you said, people, Sony knows that people feel like their games are absolute quality games and they're must plays, regardless of how you feel about their policies, right? So they feel like people are going to buy our games. We got premium products, right? They may not like it, but they're going to end up buying our games, one way or another. That's how they feel. So it's that fact, along with the fact that they're going to cover up something bad with something good.
Yeah.
And it's very possible that the show that's coming up, by the time that comes around, people are going to completely forget about this whole Horizon situation. Depending on how good the show is, people could completely forget about it and be like, well, yeah, they're a-holes, but they did this. Like they did the same thing with what was it? It was they announced Horizon, even though most people didn't expect it to even launch this year. They announced that it's coming out next year. And then they also announced the 60 frames patch for Horizon Zero Dawn,
yes,
which people have been waiting for. And I absolutely believe that was ready. That was always ready. They always had that 60 frames patch ready.
Yep.
It's not a coincidence. They timed this stuff perfectly. They could have released that 60 frames patch at any time. They purposely did it because they did it at this time because, okay, we're going to delay the game and then we're going to tell people, but you got the 60 frames Horizon patch.
Completely.
They do it all the time.
Completely agree with you. They are notorious for something like this. They've done this for well into last generation into this generation. Let me ask you this then, BJ. Capone, shout out to Capone. He says, I expect the same dirty trick when it comes to God of War and Gran Turismo 7. Do you think that this is the same marketing ploy they're going to go with those two titles as well? If this does pan out and they don't end up reversing their word from yesterday?
Well, do you mean are they?
Will they do the same pricing with God of War and Gran Turismo?
God of War is even bigger than Horizon, right? So, like, with Horizon, I feel like you could, being that it sold over 10 million. God of War, Horizon sold over 10 million. God of War sold over like 20 million.
Right.
People, they have more confidence that people are going to buy God of War no matter what, even more than Horizon. I feel like they got away with, they're trying to get away with murder with Horizon. They're going to get away with several murders with God of War. Like they're not even worried about that one.
I still look at this though, and I have to ask the question out loud, like, what is the real value? Like, how many of these $80 versions are you going to get, or how many people are you're going to get to buy the game twice and then not get pissed off at you later on? The risk reward of it to me, it just doesn't really make sense, and that's why I say that I think now that this has kind of been escalated, now it's probably in the view of everybody over at PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
I would be shocked if it wasn't overturned because it just doesn't. You can't. I get what people are saying, like, they resold Last of Us 1 to everybody and made a boatload of money, right? Because everybody went and bought that game again. They're probably looking at like, well, why don't we do the same thing again? But the thing is, the environment's changed, the competition is different, and I think that in light of that, I mean, here's what they've effectively done this week. It's not just about really their own brand. What they help do is they help Microsoft's Xbox department sell their smart delivery. Like, how many jokes did we hear about that last year about, oh yeah, Microsoft's adding a marketing term to thing that everybody's going to do. All of a sudden, PlayStation this week just they might as well ran commercials for
Well,
Xbox. So
it's funny, and listen. So I know, OBM, I know where you're going with that. And well, Brap, I'm going to let you take the mic because I spoke to Brap about this. I believe it was yesterday. And Brap, I'll let you go ahead and explain it because you did it best. But I will say this much: what you're getting in Microsoft Smart Delivery thus far, guys, remember what I'm saying here. Thus far, it's not equivalent to what Sony's giving you in their, let's call it their director's cut. There seems to be more that you're getting. But Brap, go ahead and explain it. I thought you did a really really great job, actually, of explaining it yesterday.
Yeah. So someone actually in Spaces asked me the same question, like, do you feel like Sony's double dipping? And I'm like, no, I don't. I think that, look, at the end of the day, like, as consumers, if you don't find value in something, don't buy it. I get that. But for me, for Brap, when Sony says we're going to charge you, $10 for the PlayStation 5 version of a game that's on PlayStation 4, I'm okay with that because I'm getting tangible things that are not on the PlayStation 4. I'm getting haptic feedback. I'm getting 3D audio. Those are tangible feature sets that are not available on the PlayStation 4. This is no different from any other consumer product we buy. I bought a Vizio Quantum P TV, right? I spent more money than the version below it. Why? Because I wanted certain feature sets that are tangible, right? Like, this isn't new. I don't understand in gaming why this is such a foreign concept per se. If you don't want it, don't buy it. But I don't think they're double dipping. I think I don't have an issue with Sony saying, you know what, we want to recoup money. We want to make money off of investments that we've made in our products, right? Like, to make two games, right? To make a game that has haptic feedback, 3D audio, that takes time, money, and resources.
Right.
You have to QA those things. It takes manpower. Those things cost money, right?
Absolutely.
Sony has every right.
Why does everybody, and I'm Brap, I'll ask it to you, but I'm really interested to hear what BG, OBM, and Nick have to say about this. Why is it that we consider them both to be exactly the same? We say all the time, Microsoft's this trillionaire, right? They're this $1 trillion company, this mega giant, not only in the gaming space, but just in multiple different business avenues. Sony doesn't really have that ability to compete where they can say, well, we'll just keep letting this be free and letting that be free. So not in addition to what Brap's saying with the features you get with Sony's products, that sometimes it's a clear upgrade from a PS4 to PS5, besides just resolution or just a frame rate bump, right? You're getting that as well with Sony. Then you're getting the features that are only available on the PS5, which is where that extra money comes from. Or at least that's logically the way that they're selling it. I'm not saying it's the right way, but it is, and these companies don't have to mimic each other with everything being free. Don't get me wrong, to everybody on this panel, billions of dollars, lots of money. Trillions of dollars, a lot more money, right? I mean, this is a big difference between the two companies.
And here's what's unfortunate. Like, I see people saying, don't let Brap damage control. The same people that are saying this probably pay for premium experiences with other consumer goods. But because it's consoles,
consoles are their own category.
Exception, yeah. It's a separate category. It's a consumer product. It's no different. These same people are probably paying upgraded fees for something. I guarantee you, some of them have Netflix. Guess what? They're paying that surcharge for 4K streaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, that's an upgraded, that's a fee. That's for fee for something else in addition to, for a better experience per se.
Go ahead, Nick. I want to hear what you got to say.
Ahead,
so here's the thing, is I kind of fall under this rule of companies can do what they want. If people don't like what they're doing, they won't buy it.
Thank you.
Full stop.
Thank you.
End of story.
Agree with that.
I'm going to use an example, and this is a really extreme example. So there was a collector's edition of Devil May Cry 5 that was available in Japan. I think it was Japan only. And it was in excess of I think $1,200. And it basically, you could get all the main characters jackets, full size leather jackets, everything else. It was this big, expansive edition that Capcom did.
Mm-hmm.
That was obviously made for a very specific audience. Obviously, your average Devil May Cry fan who's spending $60 on Devil May Cry 5 isn't going to buy that. But it's available for those that want to. And I think as long as you have a base level option that people can just buy at a standard price and enjoy the experience and everything else, if someone wants to pay extra for, I'm not going to say, I don't want to pawn it off as gimmicks, but for extras, that's fine. It's like the iPhones or anything else. Anything else you consume, there's always an upgraded or a pro model that you can buy if you want to. And as long
see,
as
so
you
Nick, I'm with you on everything you said. The only issue I have right now is the difference between the 10 and the 20. And Brap did go ahead and list things that they're throwing in. Is all I'm asking for is you're right, Nick. Right, the item itself, the product, not just the video game we're talking about right now. Any product, the price that someone stamps on it. The consumer base will depend whether or not that's the proper price. I'll give you an example everybody wants to hear, okay? Everybody who, if you have a home or your parents' home, you live in a home, you own your home, you can put a for sale sign outside of your house right now, and you have every right to ask for $1 million for your home. I don't know if you guys know that or not. You can list your home for $1 million. I got news for you. No one's coming on Sunday to walk through the house to check it out, right? I mean, this is the thing that's always been said. You can put a price tag on anything, but the consumer will dictate whether or not your price point is competitive and realistic. So Nick's right there. The problem I have with what Sony did this time, and I think a lot of people were upset with the whole thing. I'm not upset with the whole thing. I'm upset with the lack of consistency. You can't say $10. And that's the way you're going into this generation, and then switch it to 20. Because here's the thing: where does it end? Does it go to now? God of War. BG said it. God of War can do anything it wants. Is that going to be $30?
Here's
for the upgrade. You know, I mean, go ahead, please.
Here's the thing too. Like Brapris listed out the stuff you get, but I'm sorry. You know, a fool and his money are soon parted. If you're paying an extra $10 for photo mode stickers,
right,
and whatever else, you got enough disposable income. I ain't worrying about you. Like that's just where I'm at.
Great point.
Like digital deluxe editions are the biggest scam that we've got going. It's like, oh, you can have a digital art book. Cool. I can look at concept art on my computer that I can find online because you guys post it there too. If it's not a physical booklet, it does not offer me personally any value. So if you want to spend $90 on a digital deluxe edition so that you can have the soundtrack or whatever the case may be, go right ahead. I am buying my standard PS5 edition and I'm happy I'm playing my game. You're happy with your little art book, your little soundtrack, and your stickers.
Well, you know, the other thing, can we also put another, I just want to pour the water on the flame a little bit, and then we'll wrap up. I want to hear, OBM, if you have something to add, we'll definitely hear it, and then we'll move on to another subject. But the other thing is this. Let's say you're a PS4 owner. I've been trying to think of different scenarios. This is what I've been doing for the past 24 hours. This is the way I am. I think of different scenarios and a way to get out of the Rubik's Cube, okay? If you're a PS4 owner, you don't own a PS5, you buy the standard edition. That was your intent, right? So you're going to buy the standard edition. That's the $60 game. You enjoy the game. You enjoy the game for what it is, and you have a hell of a time with it, okay? All of a sudden, you say, well, you get a PS5 sometime in 2022. Maybe it's June, maybe it's March, maybe it's next October. This game's going to be like $25, $20. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be discounted. $30, I don't know, even go 30. Let's go 30, 35. My point being is that like it's going to be on sale. It may even be in PS Plus. Who knows what they're going to do with it? I'm just trying to say to you that like, if you don't want to get a PS5, there's people I know personally. There's a lot of people in the community that are like, I can't get my hands on a PS5, Mooch. It's not fair. I get that. I have friends of mine that have PS4 Pros. They don't at this time feel they need to upgrade to a PS5. And they're not looking for one. And they don't care. And because guess what? All these games are coming out on PS4. So what I'm saying to you is like, I'm wondering if the actual larger consumer base outside of the community we all speak in and listen to is actually as much in an uproar as we are. That's another question. I'm just posing to the panel and to the chat. What do you, I mean, I don't know if it was Nick or OBM who was going to chime in. Go ahead, Brad.
They may not. I mean, they may not even care because like a lot of them aren't engaged in social media or keep up with things. You know, like I talk to people that are, I guess we would consider casual gamers.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about what's going on. They don't follow the news.
They're probably not paying attention to this.
Yeah, if there's a game they want, they just go out and buy it. But I will say this too, like what Nick was just saying, what Nick just brought up, is that the messaging here, I think, with Sony has been bad. Like it's just not. And OBM, you brought this up earlier too, and I know we talked about this behind the scene. That their messaging has not been consistent, and that's a problem. Like this upgrade path needs to be clear and concise.
Yeah, the consistency is just lacking.
Yeah, look, at the very least, the free upgrade aside, at least give people a $10 upgrade as an option as well, right? Like make it as easy as possible. And that's the one thing Microsoft's done well with smart delivery. Like it's easy peasy, right? You don't have to overthink it. It's just done. Do that. Do that. Like that's what Sony needs to do. Make it as seamless and easy as possible for people, because some people won't read the details. Some people won't understand, well, what does this mean? $80, $90, $70. What am I actually getting? If they said, hey, you know what? You had the PS4 version. You want the PS5? $10 upgrade. You're done. Good. Right. It's easy. It's easy to understand.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the earlier point with it all being about the messaging. And I know you brought up the thing about paying more for games, and I've said this on your show and off the record as well. I don't look at the price as something that's pro or anti-consumer. That's just the price. That's the market. At end of the day, we'll see what the marketplace says to those prices, right? So we'll see over time whether $70 works out or over 60. I don't get up in arms about that. If something's not worth 70 to me, I ignore it. And there's so many choices. There's everything from free to play to subscriptions to $20 games to whatever. You can wait 6 months and get it cheaper. But when I do look at what's pro and anti-consumer, I think about messaging. I think about am I getting is it very clear what I'm getting? What I think I'm paying for is that what I'm getting? And when you change things like they have been, that's where I have the issue. It's like, just be consistent. Make sure your customers understand this. Make sure you're not going to have a bunch of customers that are going to buy the game for 60 and then they're going to get the PS5 and they're going to go, oh wait, I got to buy this again. Like nobody, you want to make that stuff. You want to avoid those issues because again, the reward for that, the amount of extra money you're going to get is probably not going to be offset from by some of the distrust you can build up over time.
I got a couple super chats here. Shout out to Smokes901. He says, that's what happens when you put an accountant in charge. Jim, Ryan, gotta go. They're surcharging and taxing us to an oblivion. Let's give them that work, no damage control, and demand better. Shout out to Smokes. Bathy J, he says, I feel like this was just a screw up in the store. I don't think it is, but that would have been corrected a lot sooner than... It wouldn't have taken 24 hours, Bathy J. Shout out to JudaZuk. He says, all I know is that I have used smart delivery a total of 0 times, and that will probably be my lifetime total. I always buy deluxe editions, by the way. JudaZuk, it's funny. It depends on the game. If it's a big franchise seller for like Microsoft, I'll generally do that. If it's a big franchise seller for Sony, I'll also do that. I don't really do that for a lot of the in-between games. Shout out to Face23. Thank you so much for the super chat, Face. He says, Horizon Forbidden West for PS5 owners, they're good, but for PS owners, they're getting screwed if they want to upgrade. Absolutely. PS5 owners are not complaining right now, Face. They have exactly what Nick was saying just a moment ago. He's got his PS5. He'll play the standard edition on PS5, and he's going to be a very happy gamer. The Wise Old Gamer, shout out to Wise Old Gamer. He says, a thought. And here's an interesting thought. I like the way Wise Old Gamer always does what I do. He always thinks about different avenues. He says, is Microsoft offering their games for free essentially making their games feel cheap? Is Microsoft guilty for underpricing than Sony overpricing? I'll let the panel sit on that. We'll come back to it. That's an interesting question, Wise Old Gamer. I don't think, and I saw Capone. Capone doesn't let, no references to Xbox. There's no references to Xbox to the great Capone. Brap is in the chat here, and he's on the panel. 2 places at once. It's almost physically impossible. PC doesn't have this issue. Hashtag PC gods. PC also doesn't have Horizon Forbidden West.
Not yet.
Listen, that's something else I'll never understand. Not to take a detour on my own show, but when I see a lot of people being like, hey, PC's doing great, we've got the best of everything, this and that. If you're a gamer like I am, and you've been waiting, you wait for 3-4 years for your favorite Gears or your favorite Horizon, your favorite God of War. I don't feel like waiting another 2.5 to get it on PC. I'm sorry. Maybe that's a me problem. That's got to be a me problem. I'm not saying you can't double dip and buy it later and have it on your PC collection. Yeah. By all means, help yourself. But when people are like, they're seeing the Uncharted collection's leaked. The Uncharted collection is leaked. It's going to PC. I saw people go, I don't need a PlayStation anymore. I'm like, those games came out. The first one was on the PS2. You've been waiting since the PS2? Right, you're almost dead. All right. So, anyways, I don't get that whole logic, but that's another me problem. Please go ahead.
Hey, Mooch, real quick, I want to say something.
Who's yelling?
BG said this earlier.
Yeah,
right. Who's yelling? I think BG said this earlier. Like, people will probably forget about this next week with the PlayStation event. And I've heard that you can actually have expectations going into this event. So, I mean, and I think that's the power too of having. I think to an extent, I mean, and again, I'm not trying to defend what Sony's doing here and saying that they were going to offer something free and then taking that away per se. But what I'm saying is, I think when you have, and I don't know if Nick or it was BG that said this, but they do have a lot of political capital at their expense. Nintendo does. We see Nintendo notoriously charge, $60 for games.
They have no competition though. Yeah,
they have no competition, but they also have a level of quality that people will pay. People, and we know this, right? People will pay for quality for things. When it comes to quality, people will pay money for things they view that have value and have a certain level of quality that's not offered somewhere else. People will pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
I think to an extent. Now, I do think Sony needs to be careful though, because that quality will take you so far, but there is a certain level of quality that is associated with the PlayStation brand. Like a lot of us went out and pre-ordered the collector's edition of Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Forbidden West. Why? Because a lot of us enjoyed the first game, right? A lot of us are going to go out if there's an Uncharted or not Uncharted. If there's a Last of Us Part 3, a lot of us are going to go out and probably get the collector's edition. I mean, there's value in those franchises. These companies know this.
And I think it looks bad on like Jim Ryan, because usually companies lie all the time, right? But it's like usually it's lies where you could look at it and be like, you're on the, it straddles the fence if it's just a straight blatant lie. Usually don't get straight blatant lies where they say one thing and they do the complete opposite, right? Jim Ryan, as far as his time as being in charge of PlayStation, has said two things and done literally the complete opposite as far as the thing about the generations.
He's 0 for 2, BG.
Yeah, and then this, like I said, usually it's stuff like they can kind of get away with this because of how it was worded. No, there's two things on his resume where he straight up said one thing and did the other. So it definitely looks crazy on him.
It does. Yeah. It really doesn't look good. Go ahead, bro.
Hey, BG, do you think this is part of like the shakeup that's happened, the restructuring at Sony, where maybe there's some level of disconnect? Because that can happen when you have major shakeups and restructuring within organizations where sometimes the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. If that's happening at Sony, that's very unfortunate. I do agree with you with Jim Ryan, though. Jim Ryan is 0 for 2. And that's why I think Jim Ryan should actually, and Sony at least, should actually walk this thing back with Horizon Forbidden West and give a free upgrade. But do you think that this is part, the kind of disconnect and the communication that we're seeing that we didn't see with the PlayStation 4, that this is part of that restructuring that we're seeing at PlayStation?
I mean, it definitely could be. It's definitely possible. I did notice that, this didn't happen last generation because PlayStation had certain characters, right, that were outspoken even on Twitter, Shuhei, and in the past even you know who I'm talking about. Damn, he just left in the
Sean
last
Layden.
Sean Layden. Yeah, Sean Layden. Everybody's still
Yeah.
writing love letters to him on Twitter, and he's liking them. And they were, yeah, he's definitely soaking it up. And they had somebody to, speak about these things. Now he's gone. Shuhei's still there, but he's literally quiet, unless it's like him promoting some indie or something like that, and he's arguably not even doing his job. That's because right. A lot of these fire indies are not even going to PlayStation at launch. there's nobody that's like the spokesperson really like they've had in past generations. So I think that's kind of what they need.
Yeah, they absolutely need a messaging guy, because that's one thing you could have said in the past. Like Sony seemed to have a really good grasp on their enthusiast base. They understood what the fan service games were. They knew how to talk the language. They knew what the narratives were out there amongst their enthusiast base. And it feels like right now they're missing that aspect. So in this transition, it definitely feels like the gap. And this thing may get overturned next week, but but regardless of that, that is something that Sony is they're going to need to find another person to kind of be that person that connects to the base, because that is important. I mean, we can talk all we want about delivery, what the results are, and they're great results on their first party games, but part of gaming in any business is your communication, it is your marketing. I mean, that's why
at the end of the day, OBM, though, you said this initially, and everything you just said is gospel. I completely agree with you. At the same time, you have to say a lot of it comes down to the product. And at the end, they have a winning, successful formula. Like I use this analogy, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but when you do have everybody's got your better half, right? You go out for your anniversary, okay, whatever it is, and you go to your favorite restaurant. That restaurant, right? I mean, they're charging ridiculous amounts of money. You go to an unbelievable steakhouse, they're charging you anywhere from $35, $45, $55, $65 for a steak, and all the sides are a la carte. Okay, how dare they charge you $55 for a cowboy, T-bone steak, tomahawk? Okay, hear me out for a second. How dare they do something like that? Well, they've got a chef that makes things the way that you prefer, the way you like it, the way you've become accustomed to. You can go get an unbelievably delicious steak, I guarantee it, for probably about $25, right? But you still go and get that $55 steak. Now, that being said, let me just say, I do have a cute perspective effect in the chat here. He says, Sony fans found Phil Spencer singing to Microsoft Xbox community that it's all there in melody, he says. But he knew it's a pro-consumer business model. It's all there. So shout out to a cute perspective, and shout out to the great Face23 who's back. Face, thank you again. Great super chat. He says, when you have a reputation for quality and great games like PlayStation, it's like having a free pass. I don't think Xbox would get away with doing what Sony and Nintendo do.
Can I jump in?
Go ahead, please. I think that actually, believe it or not, I didn't even read that ahead of time, but Face just kind of was just, piggybacking what we were just saying right there. Actually said it before I did.
Well, and since we were doing I always said that your food analogies are like the Dark Souls of analogies. But let's go. Let's try to take on the dancer one more time.
No, go ahead.
I love that.
If you ever played Dark Souls 3, you know what I'm talking about. It took me like 50 times, especially on the OG Xbox One, where that thing dipped down to 10 frames at times. But so the one thing I will say, yes, Sony has a lot of equity, and if I were to use an analogy, with the core gaming market, basically Sony's got the girl, right? Like they got the girl, and because they got the girl, they don't need to do as much work to keep the girl. But there is a challenger, and I'm telling you right now, this challenger is coming up, and over the next couple years, as some of the investments pay off, they're gonna be in there hey baby, that guy don't appreciate you. It's like, why don't you come over here? And that's the thing you got to be worried about. In anytime you are in a big business like this is with the competition, it's a $200 billion industry, and all these companies now have seen that. You have a lot of equity. This is not, whether Sony does anything or not, and this is not going to really change anything. It's not going to move the needle, but things like this add up, and if anybody here, has a guy or girl, whatever, has been in a relationship, how that is. If you ever had a relationship that was great once and went bad, little things can kind of add up. And they did with the Xbox on the Xbox 360, end of that generation, things started to add up. And so you do leave Well, I guess what I'm saying is don't waste that equity, especially where the industry is going, where a lot of the walls are coming down.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very easy for people to get into 2-3 ecosystems
Mm-hmm.
in gaming, just like they do in movies now. And in gaming, it's not just selling your console or getting people on your platform initially. It's about the engagement over time. So if the other ecosystem starts to gain that trust, that's going to work against them. And so this is not something that's a big deal now.
I think
if they don't change it.
I think there's something that we're leaving out, OBM, and it is the second part of what Face was saying. I agree. And by the way, Capone, listen to this, because shout out to Capone. By no means is it okay at all for this in this particular instance for the double dip. But when you get goodwill and you get the consumer to say this company gives me goodwill, the other part of it, though, OBM, is the product. Okay, and we're here. You are, and here I am. And I believe everybody on the panel, if I'm misspeaking for anybody, please let me know. But here we are. We all are sitting here now going into almost 1 year with our Series X, and there's no particular game outside of the Medium, and now the Medium's on PS5, that was solely made and utilized for the Series X. I mean,
right.
Built from the ground up. So we're still sitting here and we're still waiting. So if you have
same
again
thing with the Xbox One X,
you go to the restaurant and you got an amazing maitre d', right? Funny guy sits you down. How's the temperature in the room? You guys need more water. Looks like your ice is getting a little right. Right. Meanwhile, you're like, I haven't seen my waiter. I haven't put an order. I haven't put an order in yet. The missus is starving. I gotta eat. I haven't seen anybody that works here except for the maitre d'. Real nice guy. Right? I got tons of silverware, a lot of water. I got nothing else. That's the thing. Right now, as Xbox, you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, so what do you got? It's a great looking menu, but no one's taken the order yet. There's no product on the actual, you know what I mean? And that's the problem I have here with Xbox. So I can buy in, and I'm all about the goodwill. Thank you for the goodwill. But now we're ready for the meal. You know what I mean? Like we're tired of having the bread and the water. Where's the meal? And I think that's where you get a little bit of frustration on that part. You know what I mean? So, and shout out to Capone. Capone, I hope I didn't do you any injustice. Capone's one of my favorite people.
Hey, Mooch.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mooch, I agree with what OBM said, but I think it's a combination of everything. It's the goodwill, a good ecosystem. But at the end of the day, and this has been tried and true. And I remember when I used to console war back in the days for the Xbox, I used to predict the demise of Nintendo. They didn't have a robust ecosystem. They weren't up with the times. They didn't have an online infrastructure, and they still don't have any of that today. But they're essentially the market leader. Why? Content is king.
Yeah.
If you don't you can have the best, most consumer-friendly subscription service in the world. If you don't have good content, you have nothing. And content is king. And so, to that extent, and I'm not saying that Sony can do whatever they want, but to the point of, having some political capital, they do have that because, look, for the last 25 years, and it's very hard to do this in this industry, making good games. I mean, think about Mooch, like you haven't been gaming for a long time. Right? How many consoles have come and gone that have died?
Oh, quite a few.
3DO. Even Sega. died.
Dreamcast,
I mean, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
If you think about that, like Sega died, like really Sega?
Yeah.
I mean, like what do we? Atari the Atari, right? Remember ColecoVision. What else am I missing out? I feel like there's another one outside the Panasonic, the 3DO, right?
Yeah, 3DO. That's right.
I mean, it's not easy to do what Nintendo and Sony have been doing consistently to put out quality for 25 plus years. It doesn't happen by accident.
Well, and it's funny because
easy.
A lot of people are saying. Go ahead, Brad. Finish.
No, I was just saying, look at the New York Yankees. Bring it back to sports, right?
Yeah.
How many World Series titles they have? 50 something, right?
I think it's
50, 40,
20
something, right?
20
it's crazy.
Something, I think.
20.
I think. I'm a Mets fan, so I stopped counting. I stopped counting. Yeah, we're easy to count ours. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for that reminder,
right?
Brad.
Yeah, well, but like how many Super Bowls do the Detroit Lions have? So it's not Lord, that's not easy to do. So there's something to be said for that. People
There
forget
is.
that.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. And nobody ever
Yeah.
said, and Enrique, nobody ever said that content wasn't king. Content is always going to be king in entertainment. I mean, that is in every single lane of entertainment. So nobody's denying that. My point is that you just, you don't take your equity for granted, because that part of the equation, that gap, and I agree with you. There was a gap for, some years, up till right now. But that gap can change, and
Absolutely.
especially with and that's the
I'm not
thing.
disagreeing with that. It absolutely can change. Yeah.
And the entire landscape is changing. Where, like I said, people will be able to get into different ecosystems,
Right.
and just something as simple as somebody going, "Well, hey, I know that I'm in all these ecosystems, but hey, I know that it's a lot more predictable over here, or I trust my third-party games here." That's still going to make a difference, and that's all I'm saying. I'm just saying,
Right.
I'm not going to say Sony's in trouble. Like that'd be ridiculous. I'm saying that this is just you just don't take little things that are
No, I
obvious,
think we got to, and that's what I want to do. I want to kind of come full circle and change subjects here. I do want to change subjects. I want to say that I think what we're taking away from this conversation, and everybody on the panel, by the way, in case anybody's listening now or listening later, I think everyone I've talked to on the panel right now thinks that Sony is definitely in the wrong here. Sony definitely needs. I think that I would think that they would correct this, but I got to tell you, BG made a couple of points that at least got me thinking they might not. They actually might not change paths, and they may just keep this pricing the way it is. But I think they should change it to at the very least the $10, which that's the very least. But they did put it in writing that they would give it away for free. I think with Horizon, they're on the hook for a free upgrade. Whether or not they do that, that's on them. But it would help them save face, because right now it's in print. And it's been recorded that's what they said they were going to do. And I do think that's the one thing. No matter if you're a fan of Sony, you hate Microsoft, you love Microsoft. Once something from a major corporation is in print, okay, at that point you are bound to that. It's a warranty. It is something that everybody banks on. I believe that that's why you have to be very careful in what you say. That's why all these Xbox guys that are executives and all the PlayStation guys, they have PR people all around them telling them, you can't say that, don't say that, say this, don't say that. Right? It's because once you say something, you are bound to it, and they rightfully so. Rightfully so. Let me get a couple of these super chats, and then I want to go to want to switch subjects here. We got a couple of real great subjects coming up, guys. Wait till you hear these. Shout out real quick to John E. He says, "I'm still never trusting Microsoft with DRM ever again." John, it's funny. That's a totally different subject that we probably won't go down tonight, John. But it was funny when. The great Mikey Barr, when he had left Microsoft and they had asked him about a few things, this had nothing to do with Microsoft, but they had asked him, where would you actually buy your digital content? I'm not putting words in his mouth, but I thought the tweet said something. He says, I would buy Apple. I'd buy Apple. Buy your movies and music from Apple. For some reason, he gave that recommendation. So, John, maybe a lot of people feel the way you do there. Shout out to Carlos Crespin. Great to have Carlos back here. He says, thank you to Nintendo for creating PlayStation. In case you guys don't know, I believe what Carlos is talking about is that, wasn't it... PlayStation actually derived from Nintendo, because wasn't there was there a falling out of some sort?
The Nintendo PlayStation. Yeah, there was a model of that, right?
Right. And then what was the falling there, BG? What led?
Wasn't it the cartridge and CD thing? I think that's what
that played a major role now that you mention it. Yes.
Yeah, and then so PlayStation went off on their own and said, "Well, I'll do it myself." Pretty much.
So shout out to Carlos for that. I appreciate that. Thank you, BG. And then Mega Davo, he says Xbox is trash. Mega apparently completely one-sided in this discussion. The wise old gamer comes back. He says, all I know is that I just paid $280 for a game that doesn't include a physical copy, just a metal box. What did I pay $280 for? The robotic elephant. Well, that's the elephant in the room, wise old gamer, and that's just the way it is. Honestly, look, you're getting something that's handmade, hand-painted. And as Nick said, I bought the collector's edition, the one that I believe is the $199 one. And listen, I don't care if physical disc is in there or not. To be honest with you, I'm 90-10 in favor of digital at this point.
Part of that's because Sony has a digital console now.
Well, that's in part, but I don't think that's. I think they've been cutting these out since last generation. They were cutting these out. There were certain even third-party groups that were doing collector's editions that didn't include the physical disc. So this has been going on as we kind of slid into this generation. But I do want to change subjects real quick here. I do want to go over, and guys, this is really interesting, and it's an honor to actually have BG on the panel for this because he was one of the few very lucky selected YouTubers to be able to check this out. And I honestly, as much as I'm the host of the show, I'm going to be very much like everybody in the chat right now in listening to what he has to say. BG, I want to switch over to the Far Cry early gameplay that you were invited to by Ubisoft. And me and you spoke a little bit before the show. Before we get into the second part, which I'll get into after, I want to hear your take, because I did watch your review. I listened to everything you had to say. I don't want to spoil it for the audience. I'll let you say it. But what was your early take from Far Cry 6, the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Man, so Far Cry 6, man, it's just... and I know it's like, very typical and, the overused saying to say, oh, it's just like the last game. And I feel like I don't say that too much besides with Ubisoft games. With Ubisoft games, it really is just like the last game. That's how you have to describe their games, right? It just doesn't feel like they're passionate. That doesn't show up in their games. It doesn't really feel like they care. My podcast member Blandrew, like he described Ubisoft games like they're made at a company on an assembly line, and that's actually factual because they have a whole bunch of studios that all work on their games, right? But they're all under Ubisoft, but it's not one studio. They're all in the same actual building or in anything like directly working with each other. There's many different they pass it off right through many different actual studios, and that's what the game feels like. It feels like disjointed. It feels like it wasn't a bunch of passionate people together making the games. All their games are just very homogenous. They all feel the same, all feel in the same universe. It's formulaic. It looks dated. It kind of feels dated. Like if you like the Ubisoft formula, and I say Ubisoft formula because even though they make a whole bunch of games, like every one of the
they
games
all feel
has
the same
formula,
right? Like Wildlands,
besides like maybe
Assassin's Creed,
maybe
Watch Dogs.
Siege is different. Yeah, maybe Siege is different, and that's about it. If you like that formula of I managed to I liked Far Cry 3. I thought that was amazing. I even managed to beat Far Cry 4, even though like halfway through I got a little bit jaded. Far Cry 5, I couldn't even tolerate it. After 3 hours, I was like, I'm putting this down. I can't even do it. And this is just literally more of the same. If you like that whole loop of okay, there's a tyrant, and as we know, he's very flamboyant and very charismatic, and he's being a tyrant to the people in the land, and you're a freedom fighter, and you gotta somehow you gotta liberate the people.
Right.
It's the same concept, and
Rinse
it's
and
like
repeat.
they use that whole they use that whole having great villains. That's one thing nobody will take away from Far Cry is it has great villains, but it's like they started to use that as a crutch, where we're gonna keep the gameplay is not gonna evolve that drastically over I feel like Far Cry 3 came out like I don't know 9 years ago, something like that, more than 9 years ago. I think we're gonna just keep using our villains as a crutch. Our visuals aren't gonna improve that much. The gameplay is just gonna, attention to detail is lacking. The visuals, the gameplay is just gonna marginally improve. It was just, it's literally like you're just going through the motions playing those games. It's so, I find them so boring, so just stale and dry. It's like playing their games are like just drinking sand to me. That's what it feels like. Just drinking
no, BG,
a big glass
you
of
gotta
sand.
tell the audience. You gotta tell the audience you did something. The reason your initial review hit me just the right way was you were like, I didn't know how to say it, so I just said it. I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. But you were invited for a 5-hour sit-down play, and you left after, was it 2 hours?
Yeah. Pretty much how it is it was remote, right?
Right.
And by the way, it was remote, which I don't think is, I get because of the pandemic, that's the way they got to do it.
Right,
understood. I think it might be, but it's like you're playing and it's 1080p and it's blurry, right? And I have Fios, internet, and it was still pretty blurry, right? but they sent us over footage that they recorded on their end. That's very clear. But, you know, on our end, the latency was bad. It was very pixelated and everything like that. But I played for about 2 hours, and I thought like, and I was surprised because I'm like, they made us play so many levels, so many missions. I'm like, oh, this is over. Like I guess I got through this really quickly. And when I asked him, he was like, oh no, we have a whole nother section. There's a whole, you know, you could play, you know, there's co-op and everything else. And I was just like, yeah, in my mind, I'm like, yo, there's no way. There's no way I can sit through any more.
I'm not doing this.
Right. And it was just brain numbing. And the reason I didn't say like the person in the room with you is the demoist. Now, if you've gone to like any event, the person like an expo or an in-person event where you get to try out these games.
Yeah.
The person that's usually on the line, like, is just the line manager. You rarely see developers actually there. It's usually never a developer. Sometimes it happens. Usually it's not. And that's the same thing with this. He wasn't a developer, you know, the person in the Discord with you. He's just somebody to help you if you have any questions and just set you up with the demo. And yeah, you know, because if he was a developer, I would have told him how I felt about the game, but he wasn't. You know, if me complaining to him would have been like, you know, going to the club and complaining to the security guard about the music, right? And like
he's like, I'm at the door. Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I was like, man, you know, I just have some prior obligations, you know, that I got to get to, you know, so I'm done. But yeah, there's no way I could have tolerated any more of that game. So I told him like, yeah, I just got to go. But they did. Ubisoft did send surveys after that you could write how you felt about the game, and I definitely wrote all the things that I said in my review. I wrote that, you know, to them.
Yep.
So
well, no,
yeah.
you did your due diligence. They wanted you to be there, and you know that. Now I want to get to part 2, and Nick, I'm going to bring Nick into this as well. I'm going to start with BG, but Nick doing the reviews that he does in print that I think is very valuable as well is very interesting. Because BG, I will say this much. I watched your video first, then I watched a bunch of others that also got a chance to partake. And I was actually pleasantly surprised. A lot of people were quite vocal on how they felt about this game, and it didn't fare very well. But you had made a disclaimer in the beginning of your video, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, BG, but what was it? Something you were saying? You said, Ubisoft may never invite me back again. You said, and that's fine. You're like, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Did you feel that? First of all, how was your review received on your end that you felt? And then second part of the question I'd ask you, BG, and Nick, I'm coming to you after this, is what did you think that the conglomerate of other reviewers were equally as fair as you were in their honest opinion, or did you feel that it was a lot of, you know, well, Ubisoft, you know, is giving us product and letting us try it and doing this and that, where maybe it was, you know, synthesized a bit where it was embellished to give it a favorable review? Do you think things came out, you know, more fair is what I'm trying to get at point?
So from the other media, I watched a few reviews because like I was really curious as to what other people were going to say. And my review, I had a lot of people who felt the same. Like they've been feeling like, I don't think my take is rare, right? I feel like a lot of people feel this way about Ubisoft games, but it's just that a lot of people won't say it. Like at least not on the media side, but a lot of people feel this way. So it's not like my take was like, you know, very unique. Some people are just afraid to say it. I watched some other previews, and what I will say is there was a few reviews. There was only one person that I watched that was like, "Oh, this is amazing," and I'm like, yeah, I think you're lying. I think you're definitely like just trying to be sensational about this and trying to exaggerate, because some of the stuff he said, like, you know, a lot of this is, you know, reviews and impressions are just opinion based, right?
That's right.
So you can't necessarily say somebody is just lying about their
Right.
opinion.
That's 100% correct. Yeah.
But there's certain things about the game that I know since I played it that you can't really say that as an opinion. Like for example, I heard somebody say, "Oh, the voice acting is just amazing." I'm like, no. There's you can watch a Far Cry. You can watch the trailers and see that the voice acting is just okay. There's nothing amazing. When we think about amazing, think about some of the best performances, best voice performances you've heard in games, right?
Yes.
Go and look at the Far Cry trailers. Would you put that anywhere near some of the best voice acting you've heard? Like, what are you?
No.
So what are you talking about? That's, to me, that type of stuff is lying and just like trying to give the game a lot more credit and a lot more sauce than it deserves. Right. So yeah, there's some people like other parts of the media.
The major antagonist, though, when and the only reason I interrupted you, BG, was just because you'd mentioned the voice acting was, and I believe the gentleman's name is Giancarlo. Was his acting? How much of the, and you played 2 hours plus? Did you see a lot of his part come to fruition? Did you get a chance to kind of rate his performance?
Yeah. So, they you got to see some cutscenes with him, and everybody knows him. He's been in a good amount of things, but most people know him from Gus from Breaking Bad.
Yes.
And yeah, he's the his character in Far Cry is very much like his character in Breaking Bad. He's the quiet devil, right? He's the nonchalant, monotone tyrant,
which is awesome.
And that's exactly what he's the guy in charge. He's not going to show a lot of emotion, but he's a killer, right? And that's the same thing he is in Far Cry 6, same thing he is in Breaking Bad. So he's great, and we knew it would be that way.
Yes,
right? Because they know how to make a villain. They know how to pick the right people to portray their villains. But as far as like the other media, other than like the few people I saw like boosting the game higher than it should be, the other media just said things in a nice way, right? They were like, "Oh, Far Cry isn't reinventing the wheel. There's nothing necessarily innovative here."
Right.
And no, that's the way they say something negative in a non-negative way.
Correct.
Yeah, like saying Far Cry isn't inventing the wheel is an understatement. Like, but they're not even shining the wheel. They're not putting air in the wheel. They're not doing anything to the wheel. It's the same. It's
just
the
there.
same wheel.
Yeah.
And like, it's bald tires, and they're just like gonna keep going on with it. And that's exactly what it is.
Till the rim actually falls off. And it's funny you say that because as you're giving your thought on this game, and your real critique though, BG, is on Ubisoft. And that's one of mine. I've been saying that. I've never actually come out and just said Ubisoft games. But like everybody, you remember the launch of the new consoles last November? Everybody's like, "Oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna grab my new console. I'm going home playing Valhalla." And I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, I don't like Assassin's Creed hasn't been good since like Assassin's Creed 2. And like, and I think that Far Cry, like you said, the Voss enemy in Far Cry 3, which I played the hell out of. I loved Far Cry 3. It's never made any form of advancement since 3. Legitimately. I mean that. And that's what BG was just referring to with his wheel analogy. Nick, I just wanted to get Nick's opinion on this because, Nick, you deal with a lot of this when it comes to reviews and dealing with a lot of this with the press and all that. I mean, Nick, did you heard BG's statement. What is it from your landscape when you get invited to these things? I mean, we even had a talk, which I won't bring up, but we had a talk before the show as well, where you're doing a review of certain games, and you're doing your due diligence. You're saying if this game is good or not based on the merit of the quality of the product. So what's your take from what you hear what BG saying, and what sometimes you see from the reviewers out there? Sometimes their review is not necessarily giving the true interpretation of the product itself.
So reviewing games is really complicated. Some people are very good at emotionally unattaching themselves from things, and some people aren't so good at that. That's just the fact of being human.
Right. Like
some people are more empathetic to other people, and it's hard to give criticism. It's also hard to take criticism. A lot of people are very poor at both. I'm mean. I don't have a problem being mean. You won't ever see me be like write a headline where I'm like, well, this could be better, but it's still okay. I owe it to the people that take the time to read my reviews to give them my honest opinion.
Thank you, Nick. Yes.
I've written reviews like I'm not incredibly proud of this, but I got an indie game preview that we got through a relationship that we met from someone at PAX, and we got this small indie game. It was done by two brothers. They're really passionate about it and everything else. There was only 2 reviews on OpenCritic for it when it launched. So when I posted my review, people gave it like a 7 or 8. They're like, oh, it was a good attempt. And I gave it like a 4 or a 5. I just tanked the Open Critic score on it because I was like, this isn't good. This isn't worth your money. And like, it's cool that they made it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's good. And the thing is I think there's a thin line between being an ass about something and being incredibly critical of something. And I think that's something I've always enjoyed by BG's content, is that he hits that mark. And I think very few people can hit that mark where it's like, hey, this is how I honestly feel about this. And that's how you have to preface it. Like,
that's right.
Full stop. You can't sit there and hold someone's hands because you owe it to the developers to give them honest feedback. I had friends that did coding in high school that would come to me and be like, hey, can you play this little game that I've made? And I'd be like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. But this is really cool. You did a really great job on this. Focus more in on this. And that's something that all developers can get feedback from. Feedback is so important. This may be a little bit of a loop back, but I want to use Death Stranding as an example. So Death Stranding released, people enjoyed it, hated it, whatever the case may be. There's a huge amount of critique leveled at that game for various aspects of that game.
Right.
And then when you see the director's edition come out, you see a bunch of things that was critiqued about Death Stranding that Kojima Productions kind of addressed with some of the stuff they're adding into the director's edition. And that's because people gave honest feedback. Not everyone was like, oh, Kojima made another great game, 10 out of 10, da-da-da. And people were like, oh, it's a boring walking simulator, da-da-da. There's people in the middle there that are like, this is good, but if you did this, this, and this, it would be better. It's easy to go on social media and go, this sucks.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Why does it suck? That's why I always enjoy listening to like the console warring space, because it's Xbox sucks or PlayStation sucks. If you sit down and nail down one of these guys and be like, okay, why does it suck? And they'll be like, because it's trash. Okay, why is it trash? Most of these people can't coherently string together a logical reason that they're spouting this stuff off. And that's what's so difficult about reviews, is if you come at me about an audio portion, a video portion of it, I have to have the opinions and the ideas behind it to back up my thought. I can't just vomit out a positive thing or vomit out a negative thing without backing it up without providing information or proof. And that's why it's important to finish games when you review them.
Yes.
But that's another story. I'll get off my soapbox and let someone else talk.
No, Nick, I really appreciate hearing that from you and from BG. I know you guys do a lot of reviews, and that's something that, I give my opinion on games the first week they come out, this and that on the show here, but I don't do the formal reviews like you guys do most of the time. And for me personally, I enjoy to watch those and read those, because that you guys put yourself out there, and you're not doing what's popular. You're doing what you feel is right and how you felt. So I appreciate that. I want to kind of, again, and I do want to just, before we shift subjects, let me ask this. So OBM and Brap, if you guys have anything, I will say this much because people are asking me in the chat. I did, foolishly, maybe you could say, maybe it's foolish. I'll let you guys know when it comes out in October. I did pre-order Far Cry 6. I'm a big fan of Giancarlo, and I'm a big fan of, listen, I like the idea and the precipice behind the whole Far Cry franchise. Is it getting long in the tooth? Yes. Am I going to finish it? Am I going to platinum it? Hell no. Am I going to finish it? We'll see. But I did want to get it. I wanted to give it a try. I did play 5. I didn't like 5 at all. I didn't like how they had the 3 sections and the 3 different family members, and you could attack them in any different way or different order. I'm hoping that this one here, and if BG, if you know anything about this, I'm not sure if you know more or less about this. I hope it's not linear as far as it's an open world game, but it's linear as far as it's objective based, as far as major completion of enemies in certain areas. What I'm saying is they don't just let you go and kill this major guy to the left and, if you don't want to do that, you can go over here. I like something that has a little bit more structure to it. Were you told about the structure of the game? Is it going to follow 5, or is it going to go a little bit more towards the 3 and 4 angle?
So it looks to be more like 3 and 4, because I get what you're saying, because I played a little bit of 5, and like you could the family members, and you could take them on in the way that you wanted. And that's one of the things I hated about 5.
Me too.
Is like you were just randomly getting kidnapped.
Yeah.
While and like it's a cardinal sin to constantly and randomly interrupt the gamer. But Ubisoft should know that, but they still did it anyway. But it seems to be following 3 and 4 with how you take on.
That's a big relief, because if you had said 5, I would have probably thought about canceling the pre-order tomorrow. But yeah, that's at least reassuring that the structure that I was in love with in Far Cry 3 is at least intact. And listen, the game, again, it doesn't do anything new, but I'm hoping that it at least is enough action-packed. Is Brap or OBM, are you guys planning on picking this game up, or is this game not even on your radar?
Absolutely
I'm going to give
not.
it a try.
I have Far Cry 5. It's funny because I don't have a lot to add because BG pretty much, whatever those feelings were that I was having a hard time articulating, I think he did a good job, speaking for me too, in terms of like my feeling with Ubisoft games. We've even talked about it on Brap Show a few times, where it does, in a lot of these AAA games, it gets to a point because they're so expensive, it gets formulaic. But I downloaded Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I played it for 10 hours. I uninstalled it, so I decided after that I think I was done with the formula. So yeah, I'm waiting until they change it up.
Okay,
I agree with OBM. I think Ubisoft's gotten very formulaic. They've done that with, like he said, with Assassin's Creed, and there's one game that I want from them that I'm not going to get, and that's Splinter Cell. But will I try this game? Yes, I will, because I do have I do subscribe to Ubisoft. I think it's Plus or whatever it's called on PC, and so as part of that subscription, I'll have the game on my PC. I'll give it a shot. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's where everybody is.
Optimistic. I'm just not like. Hey,
what other games are coming out? What other games are coming out in October to fend off this game? I know that November has, of course, the Call of Duties. Is Battlefield October? Or is Battlefield 2042 October? Is there? I don't know if that's gotten an actual date yet. I'm just wondering. Well, that's the main reason I say that is just it
October?
It is October, right? That would be its main competition as far as release times are concerned. Everything else seems to be coming out either September or November. So I think that it may have a good slot. I think they did their homework there as far as looking at the calendar and seeing if they had any major competition. They may catch people in a 2-week dry spell, and maybe somebody wants to, in between playing Battlefield or whatever it is they're enjoying multiplayer space, maybe they want to have a new game to play that's a single-player campaign. BG, does this game also offer, are they offering a co-op with a friend like they did in 5, or that's not an option for this game? Did they mention that?
Yeah, co-op. There's co-op in this game, yeah.
And does the progression count for both? Because it didn't in 5. Like if we were to team up and play the game through together, and then you say to me, Mooch, I'm sorry, dude, I'm not playing this game anymore. Does my progression through your game count on my run through, or do I have to start from the beginning?
Somebody else actually asked me this. I actually don't know, because before we even got to the the co-op part of the demo, I was like, I was long gone, so I didn't even get to see or ask them about that.
Okay, well that would be something that I think a lot of people would be interested in. Myself personally, I'd like to know about that, so I'll look into that, see if I can find out. Gonna switch subjects, and BG, I'm gonna put you on the hot seat again here. And guys, we are going to discuss the PlayStation Showcase before we wrap up, but I do want to discuss this was the hot topic. If you can go all the way back, guys, all the way back to Wednesday. It was the whole Austin Evans kind of coming under fire because of his PS5 heatsink video. And then Digital Foundry came out and found that the way that he went about finding out whether or not the way the heat comes out the back of the machine is not necessarily a true representation of the actual heatsink doing a better or worse job in the new design, the new SKU for the PS5. But it really isn't really on that. I guess my question for you, BG, is, and you've kind of tackled this on your channel, I'm just curious. So when someone like that makes a video, it can be damaging to the brand. and they carry a lot of weight and power on their channel. Is that something that you think that maybe now that this kind of came out, and realistically it could have ended worse, it ended up pretty good. I think Austin did a video saying, hey, I did this, and he still kind of defended himself in the video, but maybe now everybody will kind of tread a little bit easier. What's your take when you see something like that where it could be misleading for the millions of fans that watch somebody who's such a large influencer like that?
I mean, I just feel like people need to, if you're not qualified to make certain statements, then don't make them.
Thank you.
Because it's simply like there are certain people, like there's other people other than Digital Foundry. If you don't, just want to take even Digital Foundry as by their statement alone, there's other people. I think, what is it, NX Gamer or something like that, where I forgot his
NX
exact
Gamer,
handle.
NX, yeah.
Yeah, he also does like test and like
Gamer
does the
Nexus.
test for he does the test on machines and all these not opinion based stuff, but they actually test these things out using equipment and everything like that. And those are the people who should be looking into this type of stuff and making the statements.
Right.
And that's all it is. I think some people just want to feel like, I feel like they feel like they want to make a statement to I don't know, maybe break some news or make a statement on something that's kind of controversial. I'm like, and that's why I don't talk about it. Like I heard about this heat sink, and I'm like, okay, just let the people. It'll get figured out, because if you make a statement too early, you're just gonna end up looking stupid. So that's all it is.
No, I completely agree with you on that. Go ahead, Brett.
No, I agree with BG. I think, Austin Evans is not, he's not a hardware engineer. He's not his approach was flawed. Like he's testing the heat coming out of the, out of the back per se. Right. He's not testing the internal heat, which is what you ultimately want to do. And he was drawing conclusions very prematurely, I thought, based on that test, which was kind of flawed anyway. Like the methodology was not what you would probably want to go by if you're trying to test internal heat. And then he kind of doubled down. Like people actually in the comment section of that video were questioning him about his methodology, and he still kind of doubled down on it. And I was kind of like surprised by that. Like why would you want to double down, and why would you want to I know why he did like the new PlayStation 5 is worse. Like I know why he did that title, because it feeds that meta, if you will, feeds that engagement on YouTube, right? Like that's the one thing I noticed about YouTube, like the sensationalism, the tabloid headlines, if you will. It works. Look, it does. I mean,
sure.
I OBM and I joke about it all the time. I do it on my show. I do it all the time. I'm gonna get people engaged.
I get on this shit too. Sometimes
but it works. So but then people get it and they can hear what I'm saying. But it's just like he should not. He's not the expert, and unfortunately, people are going to run with it. And at the end of the day, I mean, he may probably be at the end of the day. I think when this is all said and done, he's probably going to be at the wrong side of history, if you will. With that,
way too serious. But yeah, keep going.
but you know what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't think this is, but it caused a big outrage, and people were like, "Oh my God, PlayStation 5 is worse," and watch what's happening. Lion Jim Ryan, and now the hot PlayStation 5, they're screwing us. It's like, it just it fed the conspiracy theorist, and it's unfortunate, But hey, at the end of the day, Austin Evans made money off of it, so. I'm not mad for that, I guess.
Yeah. And I'm not an Austin. I've never really watched his videos, so I don't want to have an opinion on somebody who I don't know anything about, and I don't want to have too strong an opinion about the technical aspect because because I'm not a hardware engineer.
You brought up a good point on Brett, by the way, OBM.
Oh, did I? Okay.
No.
He goes, so I did? Of course I did.
No, you did.
Naturally.
No, seriously, like I even said that. Like you did on Wednesday. We talked about this. You brought up a great point about like that. I'll let you say it, like about the investment and that this company risk.
Well, I mean, like, and that's the thing we always hear too, right? Like we hear people say that, they're a business. Of course, they're going to be greedy, blah blah blah. Of course, like these are publicly traded corporations. The guys that sit in the boardroom, they don't give a shit about any of us, really. They care about the profit, but the brand is very important to that equation, right? Like that is significant to their long term, and that's why they spend, gazillions of dollars. Isn't that the word in Psychonauts or whatever? But anyways, the gazillions of dollars on marketing, just so people think of their brand in a certain way. So why would you do something that's going to risk billions of dollars of brand damage in order to try to save millions of dollars? And so to me, just from that standpoint, it didn't make sense. And then when I kind of asked questions about it, it's like, okay, so you said it ran hotter. Does it? Yeah. What are you saying from it? Even just like for argument's sake, taking that at face value. Well, what does that mean exactly? Did they overcompensate at launch? Because I could see them doing that, right? Because we saw how big that cooling system was. It was pretty significant. And we saw with the OG Xbox One that they did a similar thing where they way overcompensated because they didn't want to risk anything on the other end. And it is new technology. And so, I'm sure now they have enough data. And, I mentioned before as well that generally when you have massive hardware issues, at least historically what I can think of, it's usually some sort of oversight of something that isn't very obvious, right? It's like it's not something like, I'm sure they didn't do a revision and go, oh, did anybody check to see if a thing ran too hot? Like that's something
that's a great point. We always sit here week in and week out, and everybody goes, Mooch, you have to understand, Microsoft's a software company. They know what they're doing. They've got this thing down. They know well, Sony's a hardware company. And, you do have to look at PS1, PS2, PS3. You can go ahead and give them crap for their processor that they put in the PS3 if you want. That was a bad choice, but it didn't fail. I think that they have a pretty good track record on their hardware. I mean, time will tell with this, newest heatsink and the newest SKU. But the point of the matter is that they have been tried and true, and it seems to be their forte, if you will. So I think that the benefit of the doubt goes to Sony on this. And the other thing is just that, when you have, a big channel like he has, I mean, people will make a decision or a choice, sometimes dependent on your review. So it is it was an interesting topic that came up. I think that, there's a lot of good that comes out of it too. And the good of it is that maybe, people will do a little bit more, especially like not necessarily like this is a small show, right? Yeah, no big deal. We have fun. I always say, if I don't know, guys, please correct me. I say it almost every time. You guys know that, everybody in the chat. You guys are here every week, and I appreciate that. I always say, guys, if I don't know, please correct me. I'm about to give you my opinion. If I'm wrong, I will stand corrected. Always have no problem with that. But the point of the matter is like when you have 1.6 million views per show, I mean, there's a lot of people that are watching and tuning in. So there is some checks and balances, belt and suspenders that kind of come into play here. And maybe something good will come out of it as far as people doing a little bit more due diligence before just making a video. That's all. I mean, I think that's a lot of, it's a positive.
And that's the unfortunate part. Like I see people in live chat right now saying, oh, I'm concerned over the smaller heatsink. Well, why are you concerned? Like, because Austin Evans said so? Like you don't.
Yeah, where does the concern come from? Yeah,
you don't trust that $1 billion company that makes hardware for
that would be an utter PR nightmare if 50% of their new SKU base is a failure. Yeah, that would be a big problem. A big problem.
All logic goes out the window, right? Like now, someone live says, "Oh, Nexus," they're bringing up what's his name, Gamer Nexus, in his video when he talked about this, that he was impressed with the Series X. And he said the PS5 ran hot. Yeah, it ran hotter than the Series X. But you got to remember, it's all within context. PS5 is running within spec. Mm-hmm. The new PlayStation 5 is running within spec. I mean, it's ridiculous at this point to even debate this, because at the end of the day, there's no, as far as we know, there's no performance hit. It's I think Digital Foundry talked about they were comparing the fan noise. There's no differentiation there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it's
nothing right. It's not just that the copper was removed and the heatsink was reduced. They did enhance the fan. The fan now does. Yeah. I don't know if it's. I don't know the percentage, but there's a percentage of heat pushed out that the original fan wasn't doing, and it was retaining it within the copper and the heatsink itself in the original. So there's definitely been assortment of different changes in there besides just the 6, 7, 8 degree heat that is exhausting out the back in a higher degree. Go ahead, Nick.
Jump in here?
Please, absolutely.
A little bit of a technical thing too, because they reduced the amount of copper they're using within the console, and I saw people freaking out about the heatsink. I don't know anything about the technicalities of consoles. I just plug them in, play them. That's why I play on console. I don't really care how they work. If they work, awesome. When they don't work, I'm mad.
Right.
But reducing the amount of copper used in the console could also relate back to supply chain issues. For people that don't understand,
correct.
We're in the chip shortage is one thing, but there is also a copper shortage. I work in power utility lining.
Yes.
And we are having a massive supply issue with copper. Copper is like gold right now.
I read this as well, Nick. Yes.
If you can get copper, then you're golden. So if PlayStation's looking at it, and one of the driving costs of the price of the PlayStation 5 is they're paying out the nose for copper. If they don't see yes, if we decrease the amount of copper we use, the PlayStation runs, for argument's sake, I'm not saying this is a factual thing, say it runs 3 degrees Celsius hotter, and it doesn't affect the performance. They look at in a lab and go, okay, the console can take up to it heating up to another 10 degrees Celsius. We reduce the copper, it increases by 3 degrees Celsius. We still have a 7-degree variable there that's at play where it's in quote unquote the safe zone. So if we can reduce the material, put more out the door, it makes business sense.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. I agree with, I think OBM made a fantastic point, is launch consoles now, ever since the Xbox 360 and the PS3, I feel like Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo overshoot this. They definitely overdo it because
they do.
Nobody wants the red ring anymore. No one wants that to be a problem anymore. So if you overshoot and then see how you can dial it back, it gives you more time with the hardware to test and experiment and go, okay, so this works, this doesn't work. And all in all, that kind of experimentation testing shows that they're putting thought and time into the production of your console. And I think people are worrying too much about the technical aspects of both the Xbox and the PlayStation. Jason Ronald and Mark Cerny are incredibly brilliant engineers, and I can't listen to Mark Cerny talk about technical aspects because I'm not intelligent enough to understand what he's talking about. I didn't go to school for it. It jumbles in my brain. I can't absorb it. But he's a brilliant guy. I trust what they're doing with that console. They have given me no reason not to.
That's a great point,
Nick.
That's a great point, Nick, because you have guys in live chat that are basically doubting somebody who's much smarter than they are in terms of, hardware design. And that's mind blowing to me. It's like, what are you guys doing here? These guys are subject matter experts in their field. It's like, do you know more than a dentist? Probably not. Are you going to question a dentist? No. You're going to question hardware engineers now? No. Why? For what? It's crazy. It's maddening. It's maddening, Mooch. It's maddening.
It's maddening. It's crazy.
I really don't get it. It's like all of a sudden everyone's a hardware expert. It blows my mind.
Well, it's just like sports, right? Sports. Everyone's like, every Met fan's like, where the heck's DeGrom? It was just a pulled lat. Shouldn't have taken 2 months, right? I mean, everybody's a doctor now. It is what it is. I hear what you're saying. But I think it was interesting. I think Nick really nailed it. He locked it down right there. That was
a great point, Nick.
He really did. Before we run out of time, guys, I do want to get everyone's opinion. I know a lot of people will maybe dedicate a lot of time to this, but because it's just legitimately us throwing our ideas out there. BG, again, I'm going to you first here. The PlayStation Showcase finally announced, and I want to say this, it's about time, thank God. Two things. Do you think that they waited too long, BG, before their last big announcement, which was almost to a T a year ago? And my other question would be, what is it you're expecting that we will see definitely, and what do you think is a slight possibility? And I'm talking about the big stuff, nothing small, of course.
Yeah, I mean, we always feel like they wait too long, but then when they actually come out, then everybody we're like, okay,
Yeah.
y'all got it,
Perfect
and they
timing.
usually they usually kind of like, because they really do move to the beat of their own drum. Like they really do stay silent until they feel like they have something to say. I mean, just look at like, because remember, like Xbox came out the gate as far as this new generation saying the most, and we were like, yo, what the hell's going on with PlayStation? And then they had that one show, and everybody was like, okay, never mind. Like
Right.
all it took was one show where they showed Spider-Man, and I think they might have showed Horizon at that
They
point.
ended it
like,
with God of War, just
gameplay.
the sign of God of War 2, BG.
Yeah, and literally 8 months or however it was of silence, and everybody was like, something is going on wrong. All it took was one show, and everybody shut up.
Right.
So with this show, I've seen a lot of people. I think it was even people within PlayStation. I think in smaller roles, and a few media people hyping it. Yeah, hyping it, saying
Shuei
like,
hyped it big time.
Yeah, they were like, you're gonna want to see what we have to show, and usually they don't do that. Even when they have some good things to show, like they don't really hype themselves, and the media doesn't. The media is usually telling you temper expectations.
Yes,
right? That's usually what the media tells you with stuff. They're telling you there are big things that are going to be announced, and that has me surprised, but I'm still trying to be
you're like, I've been doing this long enough to know, right?
Exactly, because what you might be hyping, maybe based on something you heard, or even if it's something it might not really be something that's going to get me hyped, but it's definitely interesting to see this show be like get this much hype from like the media that seems to know something on the inside at least. And I'm very wary of insiders also.
Well, and BG, to your point, all these last few
insiders.
All these last few shows, they've kind of come out and said, "Hey, there's not going to be any God of War. There's not going to be any God of War." And this time they haven't said that. So to your point, Mooch, when it comes to timing, I think the right timing these days, because we know E3 is not E3, and it sucks for personally. I kind of enjoy that head to head. Between these companies trying to show each other up on the same weekend or whatever. But I think that we've moved beyond that. They see that they don't need that anymore. And honestly, long term, it might be better for the way these games get made, because now you can have your shows around when your big dogs are ready.
Yes.
And I'm guessing, this my type. I'm not an insider. I don't know anything about Sony, but my
lie, OBM.
No, I don't. But my belief is that, just based on the evidence we do have, that this is probably when God of War was going to be ready to be shown. And because of that, that's probably the best timing for them, right? And I think that's probably something going forward that, with any of these companies, show your games when they're ready. We can go back to last year with, July with Craig's face, he forgot to put his makeup on before, he got up on stage. And it's like, instead of trying to hit certain dates or certain periods like that, I do think with all the big guns, it just makes sense from a development standpoint.
Yeah.
If you watch documentaries on game development, it can be disruptive. Developers have said that, like E3 having this one arbitrary time of the year that doesn't necessarily match
vertical slice,
Yeah, it doesn't. It can be very disruptive. So if you can give that back over to the studio, where, hey, we're not all scrambling to try to get something together here for this one date that our company never set. It was like set by some third party company that we should just be there. I think that's better. And so hopefully I'm expecting a very good show, and I think this cadence of games kind of big games appearing throughout the year will probably be good long term for the industry.
Well, it's funny now. BG, you went, OBM went, and I'm curious though. So BG, you mentioned it. OBM, you kind of backed it up. You're saying, okay, they're saying don't temper your expectations. Come in here and give us the biggest mind blowing idea that. What is it you guys think that they're touting? It can't be God of War, right? Because they showed us God of War. We know God of War is coming next year. Well, no. I mean, listen. I got news for you. If they're, I know we're going to see God of War. I mean, I'm saying to you, what is it we don't expect?
There's some money out there.
What's the wow factor?
Can I jump in here? Because
go ahead.
I've been writing an article on this for the past hour.
Oh, please.
Actually, while doing this. So there's a couple of big things that we can kind of expect to see from PlayStation. Like I'm super excited. Everyone's obviously excited for God of War. Like God of War is that game that transcends bullshit for a lot of people because like it's that one game where like no matter how much people dive into the bushes on stuff, they're like God of War is a great game. That's pretty, that's a big commonplace for a lot of people. So everyone's really excited for that. That's one we know. Final Fantasy 16, I think we'll see there. For the simple reasons it was pulled from Tokyo Game Show, so it makes sense to be at a PlayStation showcase. We've seen there's all sorts of wild rumors, but there's so many guys, like there's that Wonton dude and everything else that just
that's BG's favorite guy. Yeah,
that just shovel nonsense out or repeat what other people have said.
When you do that, when he does that, pardon me, I'm sorry. When he does that SpongeBob thing, I lose it every time. But please, Nick, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But like the thing is there's some things that we can kind of expect. Like I think we'll see what Naughty Dog's working on in terms of their multiplayer. What is factions gonna be now, and I'm excited for that because I really didn't participate in the multiplayer of the original Last of Us, so I'm excited to see what Naughty Dog can do in a standalone style of multiplayer. I think that's a big deal for a lot of people because that's Last of Us. That's a big IP for them. We've seen teases of something Resistance related, anything else. I think the big focal point of this show is going to be the acquisition of Bluepoint and then rolling into showing off what Bluepoint is working on next. I think that's what we'll see here.
That's exciting for someone like me, Nick. You've got me excited for that. If that's the case, because let's be honest, there's no one. I don't think anybody on the panel would doubt that Bluepoint's a very talented team, and there's been way too many rumors circulating about them doing something. Bringing back a possible prized, whether it be a remake or a next in the natural progression of one of the traditional Sony games. People were saying Metal Gear, or people were saying other things.
One theory that I love peddling, and like I once again, I do not trade on insider information. I know nothing. But what if, and I'm just totally
throw it out there.
What if Sony gave Bluepoint Demon Souls to remake so they could get the feel for that to then give Bluepoint Bloodborne 2 as the next one. What if that was the warm up? Because people keep peddling the idea that From Software is going to make Bloodborne 2. And there was an interview with the creator saying we'd love to, but it's not in our trajectory right now, was his basic hint. So if Sony wants that game made, they own the IP. They can make that game.
Here's the thing. So technically, from a technical standpoint, I think they're very capable. And I mean this with the most praise I could possibly do, but is it Miyazaki?
Miyazaki,
right?
yes.
So I will say this much:
the god.
They don't have him, and you might say, "So what, Mooch? What's the big deal?" If you're a Souls fan, I am. I know there's a lot of you guys in the chat on the panel that are. That's the he's the chef. He's the one that kind of makes that incredibly dark, dense, drastically odd world come together. Now what we're saying is let's take a very talented team, because remember, Bluepoint didn't have to get creative. They just made a beautiful rendition copy as we went forward. They didn't create a new area. They didn't do this. They didn't do that I'm aware of. I didn't play the original Demon Souls. Back on PS3.
They did a really good job. But Mooch, they did actually a really good job of building out.
They did, but do you see where I'm talking about from the creative landscape, Brap?
No.
Question though for that, because I know Brap, you've played Demon Souls, correct?
Yes.
Wasn't there a part of Demon Souls in the PS3 version that they couldn't flesh out at the time? Didn't Bluepoint end up fleshing that idea out? I didn't play it. I don't play.
I think you're right, and I think they also did that with Shadow of the Colossus, if I'm not mistaken, too.
Okay. No, listen. By the way, Nick, outstanding.
Alan has a really good point.
That is exciting. Go ahead, OBM.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, Mooch, I do agree with you, and to be transparent about it, Dark Souls, the IP is one of my top 5 franchises of all time. However, I would take any other Miyazaki game, Sekiro, Bloodborne, over Dark Souls 2 because that wasn't overseen by him. Yeah, yes. Because Dark Souls 2 wasn't.
Oh, you said Dark Souls 2.
Dark Souls 2 is
tech.
I don't. Believe me, I don't want to speak for Souls fans, but shout out to the great Sin Vendetta who may be listening now or later. Dark Souls 2, which he says he's enjoyed, is probably I think his least favorite. Yes, the most least liked. I think in the Souls community. I'm speaking over a very broad base, by the way. Go ahead.
And he didn't oversee that the way he's overseeing the other ones, right? So so you could feel it in that game. So that is a great point. And I do think Nick brings up another good point too. I mean, and that doesn't mean that somebody else can't do it. And maybe maybe Blue Point does have enough of a grasp. There was rumors that they wanted to do something more creative, or I don't know how true that was. It's been a few years ago, so maybe they do have somebody that can take that over. But I would have tempered expectations. I guess I would go into it with a high level of skepticism.
I agree with you, OBM. But I got to tell you something. Bravo to Nick for throwing out that curveball that I didn't see coming. And I know, Nick, you're not calling it. But
let me put it this way: if that doesn't happen, it's no skin off my back.
Right.
I'm just throwing it out there. But if it did happen, that is some wizard level stuff, and I'm going to be patting myself on the back for the next 6 years.
That'll be your claim to fame in this entire world we live in. Yes.
You know what? But to Nick's point, though, a Bloodborne remake has been rumored for a while. It's been out there. That Metal Gear Solid, those remakes have been out there.
The Bloodborne one comes up every week. I feel like somebody's leaking. I swear to God, I remember someone emailing me being like, "These are Bloodborne remake screenshots." I'm like, I don't care, dude. We hear about it every week. Could it actually happen?
Yeah, eventually they will do something with Bloodborne. I don't know if it'll finally just be a patch or a sequel or whatever, but Bloodborne is one of their most successful games. People literally beg for it. There's a rumor about it every week.
Every week.
So they know people want Bloodborne. I don't know. They're gonna give you something with Bloodborne eventually. And I'm guessing from the fact that it's taking so long that they're not trying to give you something short and quick. I guess they're trying to give you something satisfying that would be more of a sequel. That's what I would guess logically. Just off the fact that it's it's sold so much, people love it, and they're literally begging you for it. And I don't know. One thing I see pops up once in a while, and I don't believe it, is a rumor of a PlayStation Rockstar collaboration because of, if y'all remember, during the PS3 era, there was that one game, Agent.
Yes.
That was supposed to be a PlayStation
never
exclusive
came
that never
never came out.
Yeah. Nothing ever came out of it. So people always talk about PlayStation and Rockstar finally doing something because they think Rockstar still owes PlayStation a favor. I also see rumors about Red Dead Redemption, Red Dead 1 remake. I see a lot of rumors about that happening. Not saying it would be exclusive to PlayStation or anything like that, but I see rumors about that a lot also.
That's a good point. I do agree with what you're saying. Bloodborne is something that Sony knows they have an ace card in their pocket. It's just a matter of when they're going to pull it out, right? Let's just be honest. And what BG's alluding to is they've waited enough time here where they're not trying to make this thing a gimmicky sequel. They really wanted this to be a full-fledged go around for a version 2. And I think that, boy, Nick, you get this one right, buddy. You could put that on your resume, buddy.
Yeah.
That'll be a big one. Go ahead, Brad.
You know what, Mooch? I think they have. I think Sony has a lot of ace cards up their sleeves. I really do. I mean, it's interesting. I think I don't know, it was BG or Nick that mentioned even Shuei and Sony, people that work for Sony are kind of hey, don't check expectations at the door, right?
That's a big statement.
And I was listening to Grub today. Grub and Mike were like, yeah, you know what, guys, do not check expectations. And usually they're like, you know what, guys, check expectations. That to me says we haven't had a big Sony show in a year. So think about this. Sony, the one thing Sony like, you know, we earlier, we rightfully so, we criticized them for their messaging with pricing, right? But the one thing they do well, and we saw this at that one E3 when they showed God of War and all those games, and when they brought back what was that game from oh my god, I forget now. The game with the kid and the oh my god, I don't.
Last Guardian.
Last Guardian. Remember Last Guardian was like a thing for many years.
Yeah.
No one saw it, and then they brought it back that one E3, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, Last Guardian!" Right?
Yes.
That's Sony, and I don't think Sony's lost that DNA per se. I think this is going to be a bigger show than people realize. I wouldn't be surprised too, because I think that one thing that Sony's going to do to counter the Game Pass thing is exclusive content, right? I think they are going to. First of all, and I've always said this. I think Sony's going to money hat the shit out of third-party exclusives. So I think we'll see some big partnerships announced from third-party developers. I think they're going to lock that in. Yeah, right. Because
what kind of third-party content are we thinking about? Because BG gave a reference with Rockstar. Is there any other alliance that they are very strong with? What can we expect on that third? Because I do think that's going to be their claim to fame.
Square Enix, honestly, anything with Square Enix is going to happen.
We're probably going to see more with what is it? Forspoken. We're going to see more about Forspoken for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they've honestly from people that are pretty reputable, it seems like they've been trying with everybody, like nothing. I don't think people realize how big Starfield is, and they were really close on that. Like that was what's his name? God, he used to be with
Todd Howard.
I can't remember his name. No, the guy who dropped who basically spilled that they were really close to locking down Starfield, and people don't understand that thing is going to be like an event because all the games that they make are just huge, and there was rumors that that's not the only one, so they've been talking to everybody. I think the only question is who is willing to take the bags, and we know Square's probably is because they've already have. So I guess the question is now, who else do we think would actually take the money? I don't think anybody's off the table in terms of getting offered the money. It's just, keep going.
Yeah, and by the way, they also, Sony actually locked up a game by one of the Bungie guys who left Bungie, and I forget his name. It's a AAA game, so Sony's locked that up too. I don't know if they share that. Maybe they share that game.
I think that's true. You're talking about the two deals they've struck with the multiplayer games. Is that what you're talking about? I think those are right. There's Firewalk, and then there was another company. I think those are too early on to show anything.
Yeah.
It's too early. But
and the one Brap's specifically talking about is the one that has the guy that's from Blizzard as the creative director, and I don't think they want to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good point.
I do think they are going to eventually talk about, because I think at some point Sony's going to want to address the FPS issue that everyone talks about. They're aware of that. And they've heard it. And I think we might hear something with that. Something first-person shooting related.
Go ahead, BJ.
Or shooter related, I should say.
Yeah, there's also those games from the China Hero Project, like Lost Soul Aside, and like that's supposed to be and like Lost Soul Aside, because it's originally just made by like two people or one dude, and then it's only going to be on PlayStation, at least at first. And I think PlayStation has a good relationship with a lot of those, that whole project of studios. So I would be surprised if when are we finally going to see a showing of that? We've seen things over the years, and this game has been in development a long time. But I'm like, Lost Soul Aside needs to eventually get a date finally come out. So they should show some of those games off.
And I saw it in the chat. I'll throw it out there as my prediction. I agreed with a few people. I think Resistance gets a new play, a new push, because I believe, and again, this is all hearsay, guys, but I've been piecing things together on Twitter.
What about SOCOM?
Well, that guy Plaid Knuckles, Drew. Forgot Drew's last name. Pardon me, it doesn't come to me. But it's Plaid Knuckles, I believe, on Twitter. He was with Insomniac. He left Drew Murray. Thank you. He then went over to Microsoft's team, making Perfect Dark, and then he left. He left and he went back to Insomniac. His reasons for leaving out of this conversation. but I thought he was a big part, if I saw this right, of the resistance.
A big part of factions.
Right? Well, the resistance,
he was,
right?
Mooch, yeah.
So, like, that's the whole point. I wonder if they brought him back and were like, this is what we're planning to do. Again, if that's the situation and they're just planning to do it, we're not going to see anything. But you may see a CGI or a flash of the name up on screen, which would be amazing for the revitalization of that franchise. So I would be excited. I'd welcome that back.
Yeah, I do think at some point, Mooch, I think Sony's going to address that shooter, thing that people talk about.
Well, they're working on that.
Shooters. Yeah, I think at some point, and I don't know if it's going to happen.
Second half of the generation, bro.
Next week, but I think at some point they're going to address that, like, because they have like you talk about factions, like think about SOCOM. Like SOCOM was actually really popular back in the days, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's huge.
If like BG, like if they announced SOCOM BG, what do you think the reaction would be? I think people would go nuts.
Oh,
right.
The SOCOM feels like such an elusive project because like you have to keep it SOCOM but modernize it, and that I think that's the biggest problem SOCOM has had is how do you make a tactical third person shooter that's like SOCOM that will get like the OG fans excited, but also this new generation. I guess the closest game that's gotten to that is like maybe something similar to Siege, and I don't know. Like I'm a huge SOCOM fan, right? That game that might be one of the most important games to me, like in my gaming life. I think that I played that out all throughout middle school, into high school, into like I think I probably made it into college. Like my first year in college, I still played, and like. At this point, because there's been so many like attempts to do spiritual successors, I gave up on it years ago because like there's no reason to put myself through that pain anymore. So I don't even like think it's realistic that PlayStation is going to do it. Not that I don't think it's like possible, but I don't put myself through that thinking to think it's possible. But
BG, let me ask you something. Like now that Sony's supporting PC, right? And I think like a SOCOM game on PC and PlayStation makes sense, right? Could it thrive in PC in the PC space?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how willing PlayStation is to put multiplayer, well, PS5, I should say, multiplayer games on PC day one. They seem to just be like porting older games to PC, but yeah, it could definitely live on PC.
Yeah. Shout out to Corey Massey in the chat. He says, wild prediction. What is it there? Black Myth Wukong, he says, is a PS5 exclusive. I highly don't think that's going to happen, but
I don't think that's going to happen.
But shout out to Corey for that. I got a couple super chats here, guys, before we wrap it up. It is after the 9 o'clock hour in New York here. But shout out to JudaZuk. He says, considering, and I'm going back a bit here. I apologize. I fell behind. He says here, considering I fell in love with Far Cry 5 and actually played it and finished it, the negativity I hear around Far Cry 6 sounds like it's a buy for me. So he's still saying he's going to go ahead and grab that. JudaZuk, like I said, I'm still in the same camp as you. And honestly, I would have probably canceled the pre-order if BG said it was more like a 5. I didn't care for 5 at all. But if it at least sticks to 3 and 4's kind of structure, I'm at least willing to go a little bit further before I cancel that. We'll see how it ends up. But I'm not saying right. Ekem, he says here, bottom line, most consumers wouldn't be able to tell these two PS5s apart. We're talking about the different SKUs right now with the heat sinks. Excited for next week's showcase, and Tales of Arise releases September 10th. So shout out to Persona and Jay Bari. They were like, Mooch, you got I was on their What's Up PlayStation show a few weeks back on Saturday, and they said you really should go and download the Tales of Arise demo.
Game.
So I started to play it, and so what is it? Before I give my opinion on it, real quick. Well, this game's getting a lot of hype because there's a lot of the different Tales. This isn't the first in that series. What is it about it? And I don't know if Brap, I heard you chime in. BG, Nick, OBM, if you guys played the demo or if you have any insight, please let me know. I felt it was I don't know. It was trying to use some of the aspects of what the new Final Fantasy VII did in their action combat, and then I felt like the world was. It was kind of like the world is small and the characters are massive. I didn't see the ratio there to be of my liking necessarily, but I think I'm in the minority here. What is it you guys are seeing from Tales of Arise that I'm missing? Is there a nostalgia that I haven't picked up on?
Yeah, I'm not the guy to ask on that stuff, so I'll turn it over.
I think part of it's the story.
The demo starts you in the middle of the game, so it's not like I could really. I didn't have a good base of what I was actually
I think
fighting for.
For me, the Tales games have always had like good character interaction, good story.
Right.
The combat that you saw is kind of like it's been the same for like previous Tales games. You know, like that where it's not.
Yeah,
like,
I'm unfamiliar with the series. That's why.
This is like kind of like turn based per se. It's like. I don't know, like where you're doing like combos, you get like a little bit of the like Devil May Cry vibes from it.
Right.
That's probably like the best way to explain it. So I think that's the allure, and I think the battles like this. I think for this particular Tales game, the one thing that felt different to me is that the combat felt a little more fluid, where previous Tales games felt a little more like stifling, I guess, a little slow per se.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one feels a little more fluid and fast.
This was very fluid. I will give them that. Everything moved.
Like
yeah.
Like I remember I was doing combos and like the enemy, like the AI was like flipping in the air. It felt more fluid than the previous Tales games.
So who on the panel here is buying this game in September 10th, I believe it is.
Oh, I am. I'm definitely.
Perhaps in BG, you in?
Yeah. I got it pre-ordered. I mean, I like games like the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I like games like Dragon Quest. I've only played like one Tales games before this, so I'm not like super experienced with the series, but I've played a lot of games like it, and the demo seemed good to me. So yeah.
Okay, are you playing it on PlayStation? Is it available on PC? Where are you playing it, BG?
It's on PC.
Yeah, it's on PC and PS5. See games like that. Games like that don't have a big difference. Like I'm not gonna get like a huge visual benefit on PC. Sometimes like I might pick it up on PS5. I'm not sure yet though.
Okay. Yeah, and then, honestly, I kind of get that. You know what I mean, Brap? That's just one of those things where like I tend to like Cyberpunk, right? And shout out to the great Forkboy Gaming. Forkboy hooked me up with an amazing code. He was doing a giveaway. I played, from what I did play, and I'm gonna go back again at some point. But I got Cyberpunk on PC, and needless to find out, when the game came out, it was the only place it was really playable. So I lucked out in twofold there. But the point I'm trying to make is what BG says is generally how I would pick a PC game is when there's a major benefit. Other than that, I really prefer to sit on the couch and play on a console.
I think, Mooch, if you got it for because I think it's coming out for the Series X too.
Right, Series X. Yeah. PS5, PlayStation, pardon me, PC.
I think if you got it on next gen or current gen console, you think you'd be okay. PS5 or Series X, I think you'd be all right.
Yeah, I think you're going to see the majority of gamers probably pick it up on PS5, right? Isn't that where the Tales have all of those games always been on all the Xboxes or no?
I think no, they have not. No,
that's what that was my understanding as well. Shout out to Sir X-Man. He says, why can't Sony use vapor chamber cooling like Xbox? Well, they're using liquid metal, and they're doing other different things in their procedures, Sir X-Man. I don't think it really matters. At the end of the day, when I'm playing any of these games, I've never, ever been upset at any sort of cooling system. I will say that I thought the PS4 was as loud as all get out. That was a bit much.
What did he just ask? What
I think he's kind of joking. I think Sir X-Man. He says, "Why can't Sony use vapor chamber cooling like Xbox?" Shout out to DX Pawns in the chat. He says, "Mooch, Norman Reedus posted a video about PT on his Instagram today. Well, he's also leaked, the whole possible, Sony's gonna greenlight, Death Stranding 2. I don't know why they wouldn't. I think they would." I'm
actually okay with no Death Stranding 2. I feel like Death Stranding's one of those games that I beat and I'm good with it.
You know what though? You say that, but Nick made a good point. When it came to what they're doing with the director's cut, they took a lot of the criticisms of Death Stranding and they've made some good. I played about 50% of Death Stranding. I'm going to play it again on the play it through hopefully when I get the director's cut. But hear me out. there was a lot of things that made it a very tedious type of game. And now they have the jetpack, and they've made other things, and you can kind of there's like a bike or a sled or something. You can like. What I'm saying to you is, if you make this another environment that's a different type of a part of the country that you go through, or a different part of the world, and then they give you more gadgets and there's more things. Also you have the star power, Norman Reedus right now. He's got the whole thing still going on with his name, and he's in movies and he's in TV shows. If you get all that going, Sony's tied into the movies. They're tied into TV. They do a lot of that stuff as well. And they maybe want to keep Kojima, under their wing. Who really knows if that's actually a true thing or not? But I mean, why would Norman Reedus even say it? You know what I mean? Like, he's not like a big time gamer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he would say that and be like, psych. So I mean, I think there's something there. Shout out to the Great Gaming Forte. Says, great show, Mooch. Glad to see you held Brap in check with his fraudulent ways.
What?
Have a great gaming weekend, everybody. Shout out to the homies, OBM and BG.
Slander.
Well, naturally.
What's up, Mr. Forte?
Great that
That's
Forte.
okay. You know what, Forte? We're gonna address this on Brap Wednesday because you fraud a lot, big time.
poor Forte. And most one and Antonio, thank you so much for subscribing, guys. If you're here still in the chat, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, join button, like button. A lot of buttons. You guys, you pick one. Just pick a button. Let me do this, guys. It's well over the 9 o'clock hour. I kept everybody here from their families, their good times. Everybody works hard during the week, and they want to have their weekends. Mooch is not here to take that away from them. I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you guys for the super chats. Thank you guys in the chat for being an active part of the show. And thank you to this great panel. I'm going to go in reverse order here, and I'll start with BG. BG, outstanding to have you on the show tonight. Really appreciate your input on all the topics. We actually hit 4 or 5 topics, which is something we never generally get to on Crossfire. We usually get to like 1. And then the audience kind of takes over, and it just becomes this big spiraling Crossfire, which is great. It's great. It's what the show's called for. But BG, great to have you here tonight. Let everyone know where they can find you, and I look forward to your return on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Y'all can check out Weapon Wheel Podcast on Sundays at 5:45 Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, good topics, y'all.
Appreciate that, BG.
Run. Wife wants to play Nintendo Switch with me.
Wait, listen. Don't let the missus down. I appreciate it, BG. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, peace, BG.
BG.
Then I got my buddy here, Nicholas Downey, a.k.a. Undead. Nick, great to have you here, buddy. I know that it's hard with your schedule, buddy. You post on Twitter all the time. You're literally a workaholic. You're working 24/7 just about. So it's an honor to have you here as well. I'm glad I can keep up and keep nagging you to get you on the show because it's worth it to have you here. Let everybody know where they can find you. Let them know where you're writing for so that they can find. And like I said, I know because I follow you on Twitter, but everyone needs to know because you do your due diligence and you do one hell of a job reviewing every single piece and news article. You don't just do reviews. You also do pieces on the industry. So again, Nick, thanks for being here, and we look forward to your return.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's always a blast, and always glad when I can squeeze the time in between everything that I've got going on to come in here and talk about games and the industry and everything else. If people want to, they can find me on Twitter at Nicholas_Downey, and you can find all my written work, editorials, reviews, news, everything in between at lordsofgaming.net.
Appreciate that, Nick. Thank you. And then I got my buddy here, OBM. OBM, literally, you guys don't realize it. He canceled a dinner date, a movie, dancing, and I think he was going to go to a car show. He canceled all of that for you and me. So, OBM, outstanding to have you back on the show, buddy. And, boy, what a good one to have you back on. A little bit of controversy, a little bit of industry stuff, some gaming stuff that's coming out, getting exciting as we go into the gaming season, as I like to call it when September hits. But, OBM, thanks for being here tonight, buddy. Let people know where they can find you, and I look forward to bothering you just immensely in the DMs until we can get you back on the show.
Well, hey, thanks again, Mooch. It was a good time today, talking about stuff. And, when we talk about intense topics, I guess, too bad everybody didn't get to hear the pre-show. And then, me and Enrique go at it. I don't say go at it. We have discussions, right? And that, I think that is the point.
We go at it. Fisticuffs.
No, Enrique, he's wrong a lot. It's easy to have a discussion with him. So, but, I think that's the point, that this gaming industry. It's a great way for us to escape. It's a great thing for us to come together and enjoy together, even if we, have different viewpoints on things. It's not, that stuff shouldn't be a big deal or determine who your friends are or who you're going to treat the right way and things like that. So, and as somebody, I'm a senior editor at Xbox Era. People can find me over there. I've been, Xbox has been my primary platform for, almost 2 decades, even though I game on everything. And, me and Enrique talking, he's a pony in a PC and Master Race disguise. Don't take that disguise.
That's great.
And we talk, we disagree on all kinds of stuff, but at the end of the day, that doesn't determine anything, right? And this is going to be a really great generation, regardless of what platforms you're on. I know we were going.
That's a great point.
Yeah, we were going over like little things, right? Like we're talking right now. We're kind of nitpicking things. We did that early on, kind of talking about some of Sony's mistakes. But big picture, this is going to be an awesome generation for every system. There's room for all of them to be extremely successful. So just enjoy it. Don't have anxiety because some influencer said something about your favorite platform. It's going to be all right. So, but thank you so much, Mooch, for having me on here. And if people want to find me, come over to Xbox Era or look me up on Twitter at my handles at mother_1, and I'll talk to everybody soon.
Appreciate that, OBM. And last but certainly not least, the Great Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, Brap, outstanding tonight. Great to have you on the show as usual, week in and week out, buddy. Let everybody know where they can find you, and hopefully we get some Warzone in this weekend.
Autobots roll out. Yeah, you know what? No, seriously, great show. You know what? It's funny. Like, OBM and I, we talk a lot. We really do. And we met on Xbox Live 20 years ago. I was a beta tester. He was not.
Get out of here.
No, he was not a beta tester. Yeah.
Really?
I was day one.
Wow.
He was day one, but I was a beta tester. That's what's important. But no, it's funny. Like, OBM. I see where it's like perhaps gonna do a long outro.
Where he said that.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep it short. But no, I have these long outros. There's reason behind it. Like, OBM and I have like known each other for a long time, right? And we talk all the time. We don't always agree. We disagree on stuff. But at the end of the day, we're gamers.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? We don't have to agree, but we do agree on that the fact that we love video games.
That's right.
And that is paramount. I say that every week on the show. We don't have to agree, but we all agree that we love video games. That is our common bond. And that is big. That's a big bond, by the way, people.
It's true.
Big bond. So bigger than James Bond. So on that note, I just want to say thank you, everyone, the live chat. And come check out Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, Brap, every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You can check out me, Slowbo Backslap, B-Money101, Eric Jackson, and the Gaming Forte, who's not here. He's probably sleeping. Well, actually, he was slandering my name. We're going to address that on Wednesday. So
that's going to be a great Brap.
That. Yeah. Actually, I got a lot of slander for PC stuff, by the way, on Spaces. So I'm going to address a lot of that on Wednesday. So, now, Mooch, great show as always. Thank you, everyone. And everyone, have a safe weekend, 3-day weekend for us in the U.S.
That's right.
Enjoy your time gaming.
Appreciate that, Brap. Thank you. I'm going to say shout out to Marlesco and Biggie Butters, who said great show, Mooch and panel.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure. Go ahead. Okay, I was like,
no, I'm just saying because Rory said something, and I did that last week, so I'm like,
so great.
I'm just joking.
Shout out to everybody that's here, guys. A great panel, great chat. Everybody's outstanding. It's Worry Work Gaming goes still going. Shout out to Worry, everybody out there. Guys, Crap Gamer will be back next week. Everyone's asking, where's Crap? Crap will be back next week. And also, the Xbot 448, the Xbox Defense Lawyer, will be back. And hopefully we get the Gaming Forte, the great Gaming Forte, back on the show. We're going to have a great Sony roundup next week, guys. We got a lot to talk about. And listen, don't think it's just going to be the PlayStation Showcase. Next week is also going to have some sort of insane gaming industry news break. It just is the way the business rolls. So, guys, please do hit that like button, hit the subscribe button on the way out. Let your friends know, and we will see you guys next Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the long weekend. Peace out.
Well, I can't say one more thing.
Good night.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. That was a great show.